D-Mace, Fingan, and Donick, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Gabe Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, and Adam Vingan here with you on November 1st.
Woohoo!
I hope everybody had a wonderful and safe Halloween. I brought candy.
Take that home with you.
I'm putting it right in front of Derek.
No,
We'll
go
see
put it
how
in
much he eats over the course of the program.
He does have a sweet tooth.
Go put it in the kitchen over there.
We didn't have any trick-or-treaters last night. We don't really live on the street with a lot of kids. So my wife and sister-in-law took my son to a busier street where he went trick-or-treating, but all of the candy that we purchased to give out, nobody came and took. So it's right here. And Derek claims he's not going to eat any. I don't believe it.
I'm not going to touch it. I can't touch it.
I don't
won't
believe
stop.
it.
Can't stop. I got my own. I got one little itty bitty Snicker right here. Yes.
Bite size.
Bite size. These are the best. The bite size one tastes the best. They're bigger. They're better than the bigger ones. I don't know why, but they just are.
Well, you can convince yourself that it's not so bad.
Exactly.
Because
Absolutely.
it's not big. So you can eat 3 or 4 and it's just like having one.
And that's why they made these.
Yes.
That's just why they made them. So you can buy a bag of them, eat them in one day, and then go back and get another bag.
You're still good about it.
I've never done the math. Is there a difference between fun size and bite size? Is there some sort of measurement here that I'm not getting?
And why is bite size fun?
Yeah. I guess because you can just toss
Isn't
it
a
in your
bigger
mouth.
one more fun?
I would think so.
So why is
Well, I guess because you could put more in your pocket.
why is it fun?
Because you can put more in your
Why is
pocket.
it fun size?
Because you can put more in your pocket.
Really?
Like
Is that really?
you can grab a handful.
that
That's
just
fun.
marketing?
So the Snickers that Derek has is fun size.
It's fun size or bite size.
Bite size is small. Okay, well, if that's fun
Yeah.
size, then bite size is smaller than
Yeah,
fun
you
size.
got
I
a
think that's
point
fun
there.
size,
Yeah. This is fun size.
But do we
so
really have any? Like, who was the first to come up with that term, like for marketing?
It's a marketing.
It's fun size.
Yeah. They're gonna sell
Why?
you the same
It
candy
was a
bar,
candy company that
but
made
3
it up.
different iterations. They're gonna sell you the infant one, and then
Size.
it's the preteen one, which I have in my hand, and then it's the adult one that as you start to get in those your years, and then they got the senior citizens one, the one that had the double Snickers in one pack.
They come pre-chewed for those who can't chew them themselves.
ABC.
I feel like
I don't want that one. That one I do not want.
I feel like we're having a conversation talking about the imperial system versus the metric system. One's fun size, one's bite size. Either way, I hope that you had a wonderful
Oh,
Halloween.
man.
And I
Speaking of that, there's
yes.
one more just question from the past. Did you ever fall for the? Would you like some ABC gum?
Yeah, I'm sure I did.
I feel like in the
I
first
tried.
or second grade, I just got absolutely nailed. on that.
Already.
I
already
felt
been
I
choosing.
fell for the I fell for
You want some
the
ABC gum, and the person takes it right out of their mouth. They're like, "Ah."
I fell for the
"Oh yeah, give me some ABC gum. That sounds great." That was me.
I fell for the Hertz donut. Do you want a Hertz
yeah,
donut?
Oh my
yeah.
goodness.
And then they punch you Hertz donut.
I think Terry Crisp got me on that a few times, and I was like
Yeah,
28
Terry-
years old.
Hold on, Terry would be a guy that
Yeah.
does that to you, and then punch you in the gut.
Yeah, because Canadians, when they say donut, that's how they say donut. Anyway,
Oh,
yeah.
man.
Not sure if they sell Hertz donuts at Tim Hortons or not. We'll see. But it was only fitting
Oh man.
that the Edmonton Oilers were in Nashville on Halloween night,
Mhm.
considering Leon Draisaitl has terrorized the Predators for years. The Oilers win last night 5-1. Leon Draisaitl, 2 goals, 1 assist. He has 41 points in his past 16 games against the Predators, 25 goals and 16 assists. In that span, that includes 17 goals and 25 points in 9 games
Mm.
at Bridgestone Arena. So the Oilers, without Connor McDavid, come to Nashville, whoop up on the Predators, who have lost 7 of 10. I gave you Predators fans out there permission to panic after the Predators started 0-5-0 because NHL history suggests that teams that start a season with 0 standings points through 5 games, more often than not, don't make the playoffs. And we had Elliot Freeman on our program yesterday, and Elliot keeps track of this stat about where teams sit in the playoff standings on November 1st. And I saw an article in the Boston Globe talking about this. The Predators, at this point, they have 7 points. They are 4 points behind the second wildcard team in the Western Conference. That's the Calgary Flames. They have 11 points. According to the Boston Globe, since 2013-14, when the NHL introduced its wildcard format, 14 of 176 teams that were at least 4 points out wound up making the playoffs, or just shy of 8%. So I think that it's only been 10 games, but I feel like there's only so much of it's only been X amount of games we can go until we need to sound some sort of alarm. But the Predators, quite frankly, have looked uncompetitive in most of the games they've played this season. It was evident, Willie. And by the way,
I would disagree with that. But last night, they were
Okay.
uncompetitive. Last night was the worst game of
Yeah.
the season by far.
Well, let me rephrase. I believe there has only been one game this season where the Predators have been at their best for 60 minutes, and that was the win against
that
the
I
Bruins.
agree with.
Let me rephrase. There has been one game this season where they have been at their best from start to finish, and that was the win against the Bruins for their first win of the season. I had the distinct pleasure last night of sitting next to Willie Donick on press row because he was not calling the game. I missed out on a golden opportunity to live stream Willie watching the game. Willie Uncensored. Could have made a couple of extra bucks for a subscription service to watch Willie watch the game without being on television. It was very entertaining. But the last night, from the opening faceoff, they win the faceoff. Leon Draisaitl wins the faceoff. Matthias Ekholm gets the puck, fires it on net. And for 35 seconds, the Predators could not get out of their own zone. Victor Arvidsson, our old friend, scores his first goal as a member of the Edmonton Oilers. And the tone was set from the jump. And it only got worse from there. But, I'm concerned about these Nashville Predators. I did not expect them to be where they are in the standings after 10 games.
Well, let me say something real quick. Yeah, they didn't play a good game. And I'm watching it in frustration, and it's really frustrating watching it on a small computer because I couldn't get it on my television. So I'll be glad when you're back in the booth, Willie, so we can watch it on FanDuel. Please hurry up.
Tomorrow night.
Yeah, tomorrow night. So, but they had chances. They had chances last night, and they just didn't capitalize on them. They had like point blank opportunities last night to score goals, and they just didn't do it. So I don't think was that the first period or the second period? It was one or two where they spent a lot of time at the opposite end of the ice, and they just couldn't get a goal. Actually, it might have been the second period because it was after the first goal by Forsberg. And I was just hoping I caught a hat trick and Forsberg got the first goal. Please let him get 2 more. But they had their chances
in the second period.
Yeah,
I thought
they just didn't capitalize.
But it's not. They're nowhere close to where they need to be right now. That was a step back.
Mhm.
I think they had battled back. Since Adam gave everybody the opportunity to panic, and I said at the time, look, you do whatever you need to do. Right? This is a marathon, and if you care about the team, it's your right to lean into it. You can panic. You can be that person that they do better when I don't watch them. There's any number of things that we do as crazy followers of a team to get through. Like you throw stuff at the TV, or you're super over positive when they're not doing well. Whatever it is. But last night they had to be discouraged because I didn't think the Oilers were that great last night. I didn't even think Draisaitl was that great. He made a couple of great plays, but he didn't dominate the game like he has in some of these past nightmares that they've had against him. They just gave the Oilers a nice, easy ride through Nashville, and here's your 2 points right from the get-go. It just, there wasn't the battle level. There wasn't the cohesiveness that they've been looking for. A lot of the things that have been things that they've struggled with all showed up last night. There were only a couple of players that I thought had any jump at all. Philip Forsberg was one of them. So it was just disappointing. Now it's only one game, and there's still a long way to go. And they're 3-1-1 in their last 5. They weren't going to win every game after they lost the first 5. They were 5-10 last year. I would venture to say there's a pretty decent chance their record is better than 5-10 in the next 5 games. They just got to win 2, and they would be better than they were last year after 15 games, and things turned out okay. So there's a ton of time to figure this out. But it's really mystifying as to why a lot of the guys just don't look like they're at their best. You can go down the list individually. I don't know if they're dealing with injuries that nobody's telling anybody about, not using it as an excuse or anything like that, but they're just not moving as well. But I think it's much more, and we're going to talk to Chris Mason about this. I still think it's team related. They're just not connected. It's used a million times, but you can see it when you're watching them. Completing passes, being ready to go right off the first faceoff. They had 2 or 3 chances to clear the puck, and it was like a bad dream. It was like a Halloween movie where you're having the bad dream. But like Alex Carrier got the puck right in front of his own net, chance to make a play. He puts it into space where he thinks somebody's going to be. Nobody's there, so they get the puck right back. He wins possession of the puck again. He skates up the boards. He runs into the referee, loses the puck, and the referee skates. The referee's there. There's nothing the ref can do about it. It's not the ref's fault, but that's a problem. So he gets it back. Then he gets upended from behind. I don't know if it was a trip or whatever. Puck turns over. Everybody is out of position, and it's a layup goal for Victor Arvidsson. So it was the worst possible start that you could have, and they just never got out of the funk. They did have a stretch in the second period, D-Mace, where it looked better. Stamkos hit the post.
But they
again.
still was. When I said that, they were still in the game.
Oh, they were in the game.
The game was in reach.
Yeah, their game was in reach, no question. And then
until Michael McCarron,
had another bad dream
line.
where he just falls down and hands the puck to
the worst
Leon
possible person who
Draisaitl
could
for a breakaway. Yeah,
and Michael McCarron did not play for the rest of the game. He was benched the remainder of the game after that miscue.
The fourth line continues to be where they are hemorrhaging water into the boat, right? That you just can't be -2 every other game when you're the fourth line. Your job as the fourth liner is to be steady, if nothing else. So I feel for Michael McCarron. I've been in slumps. I get it. He's in a slump. Everything that can go wrong for him is going wrong. Nobody feels worse about it than him. The players on the team love him. He is the ultimate locker room guy, but he is struggling right now. And he's not alone.
By the way, Robbie Stanley says, it looks like the same lines for the Predators at practice today. So the lines they had last night against the Oilers, it looks like they'll have those lines again tomorrow against the Colorado Avalanche. Cam is on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com with a Predators comment. Cam, thank you for calling. Please go ahead.
Yeah, so I actually called to the show before you guys, and they took it as a joke, but I really wasn't being sarcastic. A friend of mine who I've been to probably 7 or 8 Prez games, and I've never missed a game with him. Last night he said, "Hey, look, I'm at the Prez game, and everybody's afraid of me. Everybody's running away from me. My costume has got this kid scared." And I was like, "Okay, what are you talking about? I don't understand the concept." And he was like, "Oh," and he sent me a picture, and it was just him in regular clothes. And he said, "I'm a winner." And that's the reason why everybody's afraid of me, is because I'm a winner.
Thank you, Cam.
So just your friend in regular clothes, everybody's supposed to know he's a winner? Does he have does it say?
It must have said winner.
Or
it must have said I'm a winner.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to lie, Cam. That call made absolutely 0 sense. Thank you for calling. It made absolutely 0 sense.
Call back if you want with something else. But I'm just thinking the guy had winner on his shirt, and then everybody else had on Pred Pred gear or
Yes.
whatnot.
Yes.
And you was the lone guy that didn't have on the Pred gear, so you was like, I'm a winner. I'm just trying to make sense out of it.
It would have been better
I'm
if you
trying
had
to
a
help.
Leon Draisaitl.
Yeah,
jersey on.
exactly,
That's it.
absolutely.
a Leon Draisaitl jersey with the Freddy Krueger gloves.
Yeah,
and-
that could have worked.
yeah,
that could have worked.
That could have
Yeah.
worked. But as I said, according to the Boston Globe, since 2013-14, when the NHL introduced its wild card playoff format, 14 of 176 teams that were at least 4 points out wound up making the playoffs. 4 points out on November 1st, I should say, wound up making the playoffs or just shy.
Okay.
of
Do
8%.
you want my analysis of that stat?
Sure.
Okay. It's been 10 games, right? Of those 176
Mm-hmm.
in the salary cap era, would we say roughly half are teams in the category of the San Jose Sharks and rebuilding teams, right? That really have very little
And is
or
it
no
the
chance of
same
making to
teams
the
over and
playoffs
over again?
at the start of the year. Is that fair to say? There's a big
That-
chunk of those.
That is part of it, yes.
And the
For
Predators are
context.
not in that category. They have a lot more talent on paper than a lot of those 176 teams that did not make it.
And
Like
how
they-
many of them are repeat offenders? How many of those teams?
Yeah,
are
I mean,
repeat
this
offenders?
is 10 years of history here, so I don't.
That is a
You'd-
good
you'd have to go
question.
through it.
Context is important.
Mhm.
I brought this up when I brought up the stat about starting with 0 points through 5 games. Some of the teams that started without those points were teams that were not expected to compete. The Predators are a team that is expected to compete. So you would hope that they would turn it around.
Well, they should do a study on the teams that are expected to compete based upon their roster. How many of those teams started off, 4 points behind on November 1st? How many of those teams end up making the playoffs?
That's a good question.
I'm just a believer that by the end of the 82nd game, you're going to be what you are. And there is no doubt in my mind that this team is way better than it is played. They are. You go right down the list. If you interviewed every single player one by one in a room and said, "How do you think you've played so far?" I guarantee you they'd say, "I've stunk. I've not been good enough." With maybe just a couple exceptions, but they know they can be better. They have it in them. So there's time. I'm not worried about that stat, especially after last year they were 5-10 and they didn't have nearly the talent they have on this team. Now, do they have problems? Yes. And some of the things that we pointed out, Adam, before the season started. What about the number 2 center? What about the number 3 center? What about the young players? What about Stamkos at 5-on-5? All of these things are rearing themselves. They are turning out to be questions that are not answered right now. And that is the important thing to me. It is not, hey, give me the number of teams that have been 3-5
I'm just
and 1.
trying to provide historical
They're
context.
3-6-1. They're not 1-9. They're 3-6-1 and 4 points out. You could be 4 points out with 3 weeks to play and make the playoffs. So I'm not worried about that. I am concerned. And let me be clear, I'm not being Mr. Positive here. After last night, they did not take any more steps forward. I think that looked like a team that, games like that happen. You just lay an egg. They laid an egg last night. It was terrible. And they know it. What was disappointing is they had gone on a little bit of a run where they come out of a 3-game and 4-night stretch where they scratch and claw and compete and dig out of holes to go 2-0-1 with the opportunity to say, you know what, we still didn't play that great, but we found a way. So let's keep getting better. And instead, they took a big step back, and it looked like a worse version of the team that was 0-5, where they, not even within the game, did they put together a stretch where they looked inspired and we're going to find a way to get something to happen. So that was mystifying to me last night. So that's where I'm at on that. I can probably circle 3 or 4 Predator teams that were 4 points out at least by November 1st or even by Thanksgiving that recovered and had fine seasons and made the playoffs. So I think I'm not as much into the Elliott stat as he maybe is because of what I said before. A lot of those teams that make up the percentage are teams that really weren't going to make it from the get-go.
Yeah, you knew they were bad anyway at the beginning of the season.
Quickly, Adam in Portland is on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Adam, go ahead.
Yeah. So what are the chances? And I'm not trying to be a jerk by saying this. What are the chances that this team just isn't very good? Like, period. Like, the old guys. Adrian Peterson's a Hall of Fame running back. He was amazing, but not as a Titan. It already passed. Like, what is Steven Stamkos the same guy? Is there a reason they didn't make him a precedent to re-sign him? Is Marchessault? Is there a reason people weren't lining up for Marchessault? Like,
Oh, they were lining up for those guys. But Adam, your point is well taken.
Thank you, Adam.
This is what they have to wear. No, Adam, I'm going to answer your question because you're right. Until they answer those questions, people are going to ask the question.
Yeah,
and they know it. They're pros. They've been they know how this works, right? They know not everybody's going to pat them on the back and say, "Hey, nice try last night, guys. I know it just wasn't your night. It was Halloween, whatever." They know that they're in a hole, and they've got to answer these questions. And I hope that drives them to become better, and I'm confident that it will. But I don't believe that that's the case, that they're just not very good. But they do have flaws, and I think in a salary cap especially, and D-Mace, I think you can think of NFL teams when the parity is what it is in the salary cap. The question is, can you overcome your flaws, right? Every team's got some flaws, even teams that will eventually win. Edmonton and Florida had flaws last year. Edmonton started off 2-8-1. They almost won the whole thing. They had flaws. But in the end, over 82 games, the strengths outweigh the flaws. Right now, the flaws are rearing themselves because what should be strengths are not overcoming that and not even close.
615-737-1025. We've got calls and texts to get to about the Predators, who lose 5-1 last night to the Edmonton Oilers, dropping their record to 3-6-1 on the season. We will get to those next. But before we do, it is my duty to tell you to tune into 94.9 The Fan tomorrow at 2:30 for our college football game of the week, Florida versus Georgia, presented by Twin Peaks Restaurants. Take your tailgate to Twin Peaks, home of 29-degree drafts and wall-to-wall sports.
Mark your calendars. November 9th, the Iron Goddess all-female show is coming to Nashville. So meet us at the fairgrounds as female riders from all over the world will be in attendance. And by the way, this is brought to you by our friends over at Law Tigers. So come out and see some of these beautiful custom bikes, from choppers to mini bikes, from cruisers to sports bikes. All makes and models are encouraged to come. Get your tickets now at IronGoddessMotorcycleShow.com. That's Iron Goddess Motorcycle Show, which is sponsored by Law Tigers. Enjoy a day of live music, vendor village, tasty foods, and so much more. Show off your bike in one of their many competitions and win cash prizes. All spectators are welcome, and kids under 16 are free with a paid ticket. So get your tickets today. Iron Goddess Motorcycle Show.com, which is sponsored by Law Tigers. Can't wait to see you there.
D. Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 1025, 1063. The Game. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan talking Nashville Predators, who fall 5-1 last night to the Edmonton Oilers. Bicycle Boy is on our phone line, driven by Wilson County Hyundai.com. Thank you for calling. Please go ahead.
Good morning, fellas. First call this season, and I have waited until I felt like I had a decent sample size. Here's my question. Bruno's system, from what I understand, has been to play fast, dog the puck on the forecheck and the back check, break some ankles on those puck battles in the corners. Is it time for Bruno to consider maybe tweaking the system to suit more of the new talent that we have, especially the speed part? So far this year, and I haven't been in town to be able to catch a game yet, but we don't look like a real fast team. So I'm wondering, does Bruno tweak the system to kind of fit more of the strengths of not just our new talent, but the whole team as a whole?
Thank you, Bicycle Boy. I that's a good question.
It is
a very good
good
And
question.
So yesterday, as part of my responsibilities with Sportsnet.ca, I filled in for Mark Spector, who normally covers the Oilers when they were here yesterday. So at the beginning of the show, I was down in the Oilers dressing room, and Chris Knobloch, their coach, was talking about something quite similar, because their team speed, and Elliot talked about this with us yesterday, that the Oilers look a little slow, and the Oilers are not thought to be a slow team. Connor McDavid might be the fastest skater in the league. Obviously, he did not play last night. But Chris Knobloch mentioned that it's not just actual foot speed, like the miles per hour you skate. It's about cohesion with the puck and moving the puck cleanly from player to player. And he thought that the Oilers' struggles this season were in part because there was that disconnect as they were moving the puck up the ice. And I think the same can be said for what the Predators are experiencing so far this season. As for whether or not Andrew Brunette should change his system, it's a good question. I'm wondering how complicated that would be and the trickle down effect of making those tweaks.
I don't think it's a necessary wholesale change. You may have to tweak some things. Because Bruno said this last year when he took the job. We want to be a faster team. And it's not all about just ice skating, like skating. We're not just talking about skating. Yes, we want to be fast skating, but we also want to be fast in regards to moving the puck, getting the puck up the ice,
Yes,
getting the puck from side to side. That to us is moving, moving fast. It doesn't necessarily mean foot speed. It means getting the puck up the ice, knowing what you have up the ice, knowing the construct of the play, and getting it where it needs to be gotten quickly and not holding on to the puck. So, the caller, that's a good question. And Bruno could do it, but I don't think it would be a drastic change from what he's doing now. He has to almost taper it down a little bit, considering who's on ice. They're not a fast team when you're talking skating.
The two marquee free agents
exactly.
they signed this
are older
offseason
guys.
Are older guys who have really never been known
Exactly
for being fast
Speedsters.
skaters.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So it's all about getting the puck up the ice quickly, not necessarily, skating with the puck.
Smart
and getting
passes,
it up. Exactly.
connecting on those passes. That's important too.
I would circle that as the number one problem that they've had through 10 games is that exact thing, is the ability to pass with precision up the ice using the system. So, and when you're doing that, you are playing fast. It's a really good question to ask. My answer, if I were sitting there in the room trying to talk this through, I would say, look, there's too many guys that were there last year that are also not connected right now. So why is that? So there's no reason that should be. They know the system. They've played in Brunette's system, which is trickier. So the 3 or 4 new guys that they
Mhm.
have, you can understand why they wouldn't be connected. So I think Andrew Burnett will double down and just give it some more time to work itself out. So I think that they will do that. But I do think that is the number one thing bogging them down. There is, if there are 5 guys, and I think you would say this too, D Mason,
Mhm.
for 11 guys on an offensive play, it just takes one guy to not
Yeah.
do the job, and the whole play can fall back. I think that can happen with the system too. If all 5 guys aren't on the same page and one guy's not in the right spot, it could be a really bad turnover that turns into a 2-on-1 or a breakaway. And that has happened to them a ton. They are, I think, 30th out of 32 teams in allowing odd man rushes. They got burned on 2 breakaways last night. And that is not uncommon with what's been happening when they've lost. When they have the breakdown, it's turning into a golden opportunity that the other team is getting. And when that happens, there's a little bit of a, well, where were you? Like I thought you were over here, and the puck was supposed to go over here. There's just, maybe it was just one guy that was a step late, and they're trying to play so fast. It involves trust. It involves timing. And I did see it get way, way better over the course of the season last year.
One thing as well that plays into all of this, and this is something we've mentioned before, the amount of time that the Predators have spent playing from behind. When you are playing from behind, you may cheat your system a little bit in order to get back into the game.
Yes.
And take risks that you wouldn't normally take because you're trying to score. I asked the NHL for this information this morning. I found this to be quite interesting. In terms of total playing time, the Predators have spent 53.6% of their total playing time trailing by any measure, by 1 goal, by 2 goals, by 3 goals. They have spent 53.6% of their total playing time trailing, which is the largest percentage in the NHL.
Mhm.
They have spent more time playing from behind in terms of their percentage of their total game time than any other team in the league.
Right. And that's the kind of number of an overmatched team, that the kind that we're talking about talent wise, that, just goes in. You see it in plenty of leagues. You walk out and you're like, this team doesn't have nearly the firepower the other team is, and it stands to reason you would be behind. But this team doesn't lack firepower. There's no reason on paper that should be happening.
Cam has called back in on our phone line, driven by Wilson County.
Cam, this better be good, Cam.
Cam,
We're
we're giving you
one
a
shot.
second chance. We don't normally do this. We're giving you a second
one
chance.
shot here, Cam.
Please go ahead.
I mean, come on.
Okay, please hang up on Cam. I don't know if he was
Did he
actually
fall back
sleeping.
asleep?
Was he actually
Yeah,
sleeping,
yeah.
or was he telling us something?
What color? What's happening?
Are we boring you, Cam?
What's going on here? I mean, are we into another day of Halloween? Did they extend Halloween or something? He just called and he was on hold maybe a couple of minutes, and he started. So we put him on air and he started snoring.
Yeah.
Well, there's that great promo for Chase and Big Joe show where the guy's snoring.
I'm not gonna buy that one. I'm not gonna buy that.
All right, Cam, that was your second chance,
Yeah.
my friend. You're going to have to regain our trust in order to call back in.
Yeah.
But
So text in from now. Cam.
Yes.
Yeah. But
when
now
you
can
wait
text.
when you wake up and you hear this, let us
Yes.
know. But Willie, the other thing we talked about it on Preds Insiders this week. We've talked about it on this show many times. That second line has still been unable to find its footing. And one of the biggest questions surrounding this team entering the season is, do they have enough center depth? There I go. Enough center depth to compete with the upper echelon teams in the Western Conference and in the NHL. The Predators put a lot on Tommy Novak's plate, and so far he has been unable to deliver consistently. And Colton Sissons has been skating alongside Steven Stamkos. If there's a reason to be concerned about the Predators, there might be many reasons, but perhaps the primary reason so far is that it appears that the Predators' plan at center has not worked out so far. And I'm curious.
I would circle that as the number 2 problem right behind the overall lack of connectivity, cohesiveness that we just talked about with the system, right? That would be number 1, and it's related, but number 2 would be exactly that. And here's how I would answer that.
Sure.
It's one thing to say Tommy Novak hasn't taken a big step forward and seized the opportunity, and now the numbers are way better with these guys he's playing with. Or same with Colton Sissons, and then you can even add Michael McCarron. Those are the 3 guys that we're talking about, right? Those are the guys that are playing center. Other than the
underneath
time,
Ryan O'Reilly.
Yeah, Ryan O'Reilly has been himself. I think Ryan O'Reilly, maybe not. He probably would nitpick some things. I think he's played well. The other 3 guys, they haven't played to their capability from what is expected of them. Colton Sissons is usually a super reliable guy that helps you win, even if he's not scoring a lot of goals. But he is a guy that should be chipping in an occasional goal here. He hasn't been that. I don't know, is he -9, something like that? Colton Sissons has not been even just Colton Sissons, right? Just be yourself. You don't have to turn into some 25 or 30 goal scorer. But Colton Sissons hasn't been the version of himself that has been that really steady force for a long, long time. So I'm not sure why that is. And I would say the same thing about Novak. He's not even playing as well as he did the last couple of years, right? Just give me the Tommy Novak that earned that contract last year, and I'll take my chances. Let's worry about the other stuff, later. But just be who you are. Same thing with Michael McCarron. He has regressed from what he has been not just last year, but the year before. All 3 of those guys, I think, would be in the category of slumping and not just better than just be who you are is what I'm getting at. Be yourself.
Be yourself.
Yeah.
I learned that.
Is that
in elementary
fair?
school.
Am I wrong about that?
No,
they are tracking well below their overall
Colton
baseline
Sissons,
game.
by the way. Plus minus is a far from perfect statistic. Colton Sissons, 10 games this season, 0 points. He is a -12, which is tied with Kirby Dach of the Montreal Canadiens forward for the worst plus minus in the NHL.
Right. And I would imagine a few of those are empty net goals where he's on there.
Yes.
But the point is, he's not playing like Colton Sissons can play. And he would be the first to tell you that. And I think Tommy Novak would, and I know Michael McCarron would. This is where I think collectively, it's just give me what you are, what you have been, and I'll take the results. But they're below, and we can go on and on. It's not just those guys at center. There's plenty of them that just aren't playing. Roman Josi, I think, would tell you as the captain, he's not himself right now for some reason.
615-737-1025. We'll get back into the Predators with Chris Mason at noon. But first, we heard from Will Levis yesterday. Some interesting comments from Will Levis that we will get into next. But before that, tune into 1025, 1063 The Game tomorrow for Vanderbilt football. The Commodores will take on Auburn with pregame beginning at 10 and kickoff at 11:45. Coverage is also available on the 1025 The Game app and at thegamenashville.com. D Mace, Vingen and Donick, 1025, 1063. The game. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingen here with you. The Tennessee Titans are back in action on Sunday against the New England Patriots. Should be a entertaining game. The league's two worst passing offenses going head to head. Who could be slightly less worse? Not who could be better. Who will be slightly less worse? The 31st and 32nd ranked passing offenses, the Patriots and the Titans. But speaking
Battle
of
for 32.
what is it?
Battle for 32.
Yes. Speaking of passing, we heard from Will Levis yesterday. He's returned to practice. He was a limited participant on Wednesday. I assume he was a limited participant yesterday. I did not see the injury report. But Will Levis addressed reporters after practice, and it certainly sounds like the decision on whether or not he is going to play on Sunday is being left in his hands. This is what Will Levis said after practice yesterday.
Do you feel like it is your decision?
Yeah, no, it is. I think that it's hard for me to make that decision for myself. Obviously with going and playing against Indy, and that in retrospect not being the best decision of not stepping up and saying something. But it is. These coaches just made it very clear to me that I need to be honest with how I'm feeling, so that the right decision can be made.
That was Will Levis yesterday. And by the way, he was also a limited participant in practice yesterday with that right shoulder injury. So no telling who will start for the Tennessee Titans, whether it will be Will Levis or Mason Rudolph. But it sounds like the Titans coaching staff is going to trust Will Levis to make that decision. Are they right to trust Will Levis to make that decision?
I think at this point, you have to, because what you may want may not be what's necessarily best for the quarterback in regards to, should we sit him out another week? He's not hurt. He was hurt, but do we sit him out another week to make sure we don't have any more problems? Well, that's trying to protect the player from himself. But this particular player needs to get out on the field as quickly as possible. He does, because the longer he sits and watch, the worse it gets, the more he doubts himself as a player. Yeah, you can sit back and watch and say all the nice things about, I'm able to see it from a different perspective. I'm looking at it from a 20,000 feet view, so I see everything. That's good to say. But when you're not in there, it's like, man, when will I get my chance again? Basically it's upon them. It's on them whether I'm going to get back in the game or not. That's why I said, let it be on the quarterback, because now once he's decided that he's ready to go, there's no more excuses. I don't want to hear, and Willie said this off air, I don't want to hear, if you say you're ready now, I don't want to hear at the end of the game, well, my arm was feeling a little fatigued. And no, you said you can go. You went through the practices. You made the throws again. You said you can go. So why does this keep coming up? He needs a win so bad right now, meaning Will Levis. The Titans need a win too. But I'm saying he, as an individual, he needs a win. He needs a notch on his belt, because it's confidence is waning right now. You can say he got, you can say they set him because he was hurt. And no, I'm not going to buy that one. Not all the way. You set him because you wanted him an opportunity. It gave you a reason to bench him. I think it was another reason to bench him, sit him on the side and say, hey, listen, we're doing this because he's hurt. Wink, wink. Sit on the side and watch what's going on. So when you're ready, you have no more excuses. But he needs this win in the worst way right now.
And the timing of that decision probably couldn't have been any better.
Exactly.
Imagine if Will Levis would have started against the Bills and the Lions, and the games would have played out the exact same way. I can only imagine what the Will Levis discourse would be. They may have saved him from himself by not having him play in those 2 games in particular.
So you're saying that Mason Rudolph was thrown to the Lions?
And the Bills, the Buffalo,
he was trampled by
Trampled by the
the
Buffalo.
Bills
and thrown in the
and
cage
thrown
with
to
the Lions.
Yes.
I see your point.
A real life Daniel.
Yes, exactly.
To reiterate, I would say if I'm Brian Callahan, I am absolutely having that conversation with Will Levis and just say, look, if you give me and Brian Callahan has to see that he's making the throws in practice, which is what he said he saw before the Colts game, that it looked like he was making the throws and there were not limitations. Now, I don't know if they had a conversation or not that is similar to the one that I would make sure I had this time. I do not want to hear one thing about, well, I couldn't make that throw because my arm was sore. Either you're in or you're out. And that has to be something they learn from the past on. I wonder, too, it is an opponent that on
It's
paper
beatable.
you should have some
Yeah.
more success against, right? And Mason Rudolph's probably saying, I did okay when we were playing the Dolphins.
Mhm.
I might look a little bit better against the Patriots than I did against the Lions or the Bills. But at the same time, I think we have seen enough of Mason Rudolph to see the limitations of what he is as a quarterback. He's a steady pro that understands the offense, understands football, reads defenses pretty well, but is limited physically, right?
Yes.
He doesn't have a super rocket of an arm or anything like that. If not, then he would be starting for somebody, but he's limited. So maybe that takes a little pressure off of Will Levis, maybe. And maybe Will Levis, having gotten off the ride for a couple weeks, regrouped, there's less pressure because the team isn't going anywhere. Maybe there's an opportunity for him to be looser and play better.
Okay,
I'm just theorizing here.
No,
I don't
no,
know if that's the case, but if you can't play well when the pressure's off, then you can't play, period. Right?
I liken it to a boxer in a sense. Let's just say Mike Tyson. We know Mike Tyson's story, obviously. He had been out of boxing. We know why he was out of boxing for a while. When he came back, they didn't just throw him in there with the top rank opponent. They didn't just throw him in there with a guy that has been just destroying, the heavyweight. No, they said
They gave him a cupcake.
yeah, we need to build back up. We need to give you a cupcake. Matter of fact, we need to give you a few of them to get you going again. Not that we don't believe you're still a good fighter, but we can't just throw you in there to the wolves and expect you to hold your own. You've been out of boxing for over 2 years. It's the same with Will Levis. You've been out a couple of weeks. Maybe it was done on purpose, considering the opponent. But when we want to put you back in, we're not going to throw you back in the game when we're about to play the Houston Texans, or we're about to play one of these other heavyweights that is left on our schedule. We're not going to do that. We're going to throw you in there with a team that's more compatible to us, a team that's struggling just like we're struggling. But if you look at the rosters, we're a little bit better than them. So, Will, we're going to put you in. We're going to allow you to make this decision. You're going to make the decision to play because if you don't make the decision to play this week, it's not looking rosy after that. So you make the decision to play and you go out there and just win this game. It's not a cupcake because I don't think NFL games they don't go that way where even a bad team is a cupcake.
There are no cupcakes.
Yeah, exactly.
The Patriots are looking at this game. We have a chance to win.
Exactly. The
We got a
Patriots are
chance.
looking at the same way.
It's
beat
an
the Jets. Now
opportunity
we can
for
win
them
2
to
in a
have
row.
a winning streak.
Yeah, we can win 2 in a
Exactly.
row.
So this is a game that Will Levis needs to quarterback, and this is a game that he needs to win. And not just win, he needs to have a good performance. He needs to be the reason why they won, not him just being a quarterback underneath center. He needs to be the reason they won, like he was the reason they won versus Atlanta, like he was the reason they won versus Miami. He needs to be the reason they win this game, to me.
Trey is on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com with a comment on Will Levis. Trey, thank you for calling. Please go ahead.
Hey, how y'all doing today?
Good,
Doing
thank
good.
you.
In my personal opinion, I believe Will Levis is trying so hard to get another contract that he'll do whatever to do it. You know, he'll jeopardize his career to go out there and try to win, which I don't think he has the tools to win. I really don't. You know, it's almost a year. He hasn't even won in a year. And they're going to keep putting him out there like that? What do y'all think? Do y'all think?
Well, his contract, Trey. The only thing I would say,
thank you, Trey,
to your comment about the contract,
Mhm.
his contract is pretty set all the way through next year.
Mm-hmm.
So I, if he were a free agent coming up at the end of the season, I could see that. I just don't think it's about the contract. He's just got to prove he can play. If he's thinking about the contract, that's off. I think.
I'm sure, because listen, you only have realistically, you only have one shot at this, maybe two. Typically, the second shot comes to those that were high draft picks. They usually get that second shot, meaning first round guys, top 10, top 15 picks. You look at them, Darnold, Baker Mayfield, those guys, because they were high picks, they got second chances and third chances. Will Levis, you were not a top 32 pick or 31 pick. This may be your last opportunity. And the caller's right. He hadn't won a game all year. He has not won a game in a year. The last game he played last year, he did not win. And he hasn't won a game this year where he's been underneath center. Mason Rudolph won that game in Miami for them, not Will Levis. So Will Levis is over right now. That's why I said he needs a win more than anybody.
615-737-1025. We will get back into the Titans in the second hour, but first we will talk with our friend Chris Mason and continue our conversation about the struggling Nashville Predators. We'll do that next. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025, 1063, The Game.
Shot broken up in front, and what a slick backhand try right in front of Chris Mason. And now the quick pass down the middle, breaking in, and the backhand stopped by Chris Mason. And Marlowe with a 2-on-1, a 3-on-1, and what a stop by Mason. Cheechoo right in front, and what a stop on Ekman by Mason.
And goal, number 3, Chris Mason.
D. Mays, Finken, and Donick, 1025, 1063 The Game. Broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. Home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, and Adam Vingan here with you, joined by Chris Mason, Predators television analyst, on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Chris, the Predators wrapped up practice not too long ago. I see on my social media that Andrew Brunette says he anticipates a couple of lineup changes tomorrow night. If you were in this position and you were looking to shake things up with this lineup, what would you do?
Honestly, I think through the first almost 10 games or whatever, I think he's done a lot of what I would have done. It just seems right now there's so many guys that are just off that it hasn't really sparked anything, changing the lines, putting certain guys in, taking certain guys out. You're limited with the roster availability that you have. But I think, this is something that, regardless of who's in the lineup, I mean, you could shake it up all you want, change the lines, try to, get Stamkos going, get, that second line going. But there's just a lot of issues with the team right now defensively. So this is kind of one of the, it's early in the season. I know the 0-5 start, I'm not concerned about it, but after last night, it's just really baffling to me. Just more so the way the guys are playing defensively. They didn't get a ton of chances. They went from, I'd say, perimeter for the first 5 games, and then they kind of were getting back to, more of the team that, or the identity that, we're used to seeing with this group and the way that they want to play. Saros was awesome. Wedgwood had a good game, but you just can't continue to give up the quality of chance they're giving up. They're getting a lot of shots, but I mean, if I think of every single game the Preds have played this season, I don't really, think there's one game aside from maybe Cam Talbot in Detroit, which I think even that game he got a shutout. He played well, but I don't think they've had to, have another goalie stand on their head to really defend them. I know they've hit a lot of posts and they've got a lot of chances and things haven't gone their way. But the concerning thing for me is what they're giving up on the defensive side of things. So to me, it really, I guess change however you want. The fourth line struggling a bit. That's probably one area you can really change, with the personnel that you have to maybe, send a message here or there. There's a lot of guys. I mean, you go up and down the lineup, there's a lot of guys not getting it done right now.
Chris, one player who is certainly not getting it done right now is Michael McCarron. And Michael McCarron had a bad turnover at the Predators' blue line last night that led to a Leon Draisaitl breakaway goal. He played 6 minutes, 23 seconds. He did not see the ice after that play. I know that Michael McCarron and that fourth line, they're not, the high-profile players that fans come to see, but they are and have been a very important part of this team for the past several years. When you look at that fourth line and specifically Michael McCarron, what's been going wrong there in your mind?
Well, I think when you're the fourth line, as you mentioned, obviously they're not there to score goals. Any offense that they can get and they can chip in, great. Obviously, both of those guys have been really strong on the penalty kill. That's one of the units that's been very effective for the Predators. I would say their most consistent, unit all season long. It's been very good, and both McCarron and Smith play. They're valuable penalty killers. But when you're the fourth line, you want to go out and you want to positively impact the games. And Andrew Brunette has started that line, no matter who's with them, whether it's Tomasino, whether whoever the third player on that line. zone, and you don't want to give up. You don't want to have a negative impact on the game. And I think we're seeing, in these hockey games, more, often than not early in the season, they're struggling defensively. They're giving up that big error. They're having that turnover. They're giving up those goals that, when they're at a premium and you're having a tough time scoring as a team, as the Predators are right now, those are costly plays. So, he's a good player, obviously, and valuable in his role. He's just really struggling right now. And I think, it's something that, as a coach, when you have a line that you feel if you're in striking distance and you trust them right now, obviously, like a lot of players, I assume they're going to get their games going at some point. It just seems right now that every mistake is even more magnified because they can't score and because there's a lot of guys, up and down the lineup that aren't getting the job done. And, for that line in particular, defensively, they've really struggled here early in the season.
We're talking with Chris Mason. Now, Chris, we had an interesting call right before you got on and the caller suggested that because of the way Coach Bruno's system is, and he talked about the speed of the system, that maybe, you should try to tweak the system just a tad bit because from his standpoint, the caller's standpoint, you don't have the fast guys to run the system that he possibly wants to run. And we know that Bruno wants to get the puck up the ice quickly. And the listener sort of, alluded that, hey, listen, they're just not a fast hockey team. So maybe he needs to not change it overall, but tweak it just a little bit more so for the guys that he has on his team. And my question to you is, how feasible is that for a player once you get into season to try to tweak, what you're doing in regards to the offense?
Yeah, I mean, you could do that, but Bruno's system isn't necessarily dependent on, the speed of your skating. Mm-hmm. It's the ability to process plays at a high speed and make those decisions and make them collectively. I think in Bruno's system where you're moving the puck really fast, the anticipation has to be there. So let's say the defenseman in the defensive zone is able to have an outlet that's in the neutral zone that's pushing back, their aggressive forecheck or their, defensemen that are trying to keep pucks in, and be able to do it in sync so you can move the puck efficiently and then essentially have your defenseman, join in the rush. And the problem right now is that they're not processing it, and not just the new guys. That's the key to this whole thing. It's obviously it's going to take a while for new guys to get in any system and really feel comfortable and to develop the muscle memory where you stop having to, think about how you used to do it and just it becomes automatic. But it's a lot of the players that were here last year are not processing the game at that speed. We saw the same guys do it last year, and it's not like they're, any slower than they were last season. It's the way that they're processing the game right now. It's the indecision. It's maybe a little bit of the self-doubt. It's not necessarily, trusting in everybody to execute the system in the same way. And then when you do that, ultimately you play slower and you start chasing the game because one piece or one cog is not where they're supposed to be, or they're, you just see a lot of things to me when I'm watching. Like last night, for an example, is, I think it was Hyman's goal. You almost executed it right. You have Delgado pinches down the wall. Novak is back in support, but you see Hyman cutting through, and he just skated right through Carrier and Novak. And to me, that's one. You got to pull all the way out and just not let that. Delgado didn't get the puck. He didn't win that battle, so automatically you just retreat. Everybody knows that's what you're supposed to do. But it was almost like they're just sitting there flat-footed, hoping that somehow they get that puck back, and that's just not how you play the game. And right now, I'm seeing a lot of those types of plays. So I guess you could tweak it and simplify things. That's always an option, and maybe Bruno's looking at some of that. But to me, that's not the issue with the team. It's the processing and the decision making right now. One bad decision turns into those types of plays, and it's just happening too frequently. And they're not getting the other way. If they're getting the other way, then you're like, okay, well, we can live with that a little bit, and that's something that you can improve. That's where I feel better about it. I think you can improve in those things, and But it's just taken longer. That's the thing that's really surprised me, is it's taken a little bit longer in regard to the odd man rushes and the chances that they're giving up through those decisions or lack of a better decision.
Chris Mason is with us. We're talking Predators after last night's loss to the Oilers. So, Mace, the Predators in the last 5 are 3-1-1, but it's just, I think it says something how the feeling is after just one game where you lost. You feel like you're moving in the right direction, but it sort of brings out some of the things they've been struggling with even when they won. So I think you mentioned the word confidence is a big one right now. I think if you brought every player to your house and had a little chat with C-Mace, and C-Mace said, hey, how do you think you're playing? I think almost to a man, they would say, I'm not playing that well. So it's got to affect your confidence a little bit. But these are guys that have had success. So how do you, as a team, when you're together, try to address that, pick each other up, and try to change that feeling?
Yeah, it's hard. It's tough because, I'm speaking negatively, obviously, about the team right now. There's not, a lot to really, I think that you almost have to fake it till you make it type of thing and keep reinforcing, the principles and the right things. And, that's a tough part of being a coach, is Bruno has to kind of weigh, okay, can I just still be, understanding and, know the situation that it's going to take time for these guys to figure it out? Or do I start hammering down right now and say, guys, this is, enough is enough. Yeah, we played a couple good games, but we should be able to play, not a great game and still win and still score goals and not give up 5 2-on-1s on, careless plays. Those types of things. But when you're in the locker room, there has to be a level of accountability. I know they have guys in there that will do that. And that's been a concern of mine on past teams, that maybe they didn't have those types of players that would really be tough on your teammates and internally and yourself and have that level of accountability. I think that they do have that now. I know that they do. But it's, at a point right now where it's kind of gone on a lot. And I know it's emphasized more at the beginning of the season, but the types of mistakes are correctable. And once you correct that internally and once you come down on that, you have to be able to, say, guys, this is just ridiculous. This is unacceptable with the way they play. And almost dumb it down to the point of saying, you know what, I don't care what the score is. I don't care what happens or how many goals we score. We're giving up nothing. Don't give up anything. Defensively, it's been costing us. And you see when you're vulnerable and you have a lack of confidence, you give up a goal like that, it deflates the team that has low self-confidence. When you are confident, you give up one of those goals, you're like, no problem, boys, we'll go get it back. You go get it back. You're able to get your game back in a hurry. It doesn't phase you. But they're in a situation right now where, yeah, they won a couple games. Yeah, they started to play better. Yeah, they got a point in Tampa. They played better in the second half of that game. But they're still not there where you have the full belief and everybody's comfortable. So you have a game against Edmonton, and it's, oh, here we go again. They're in a tough situation right now, but Bruno's he's gonna start. You can just tell by his post game last night, he's gonna start making some changes. You start rocking the boat a little bit to get everybody going.
I think that's one that I thought of too, is like, I think the last thing that Andrew Brunette wants to do is bench somebody like Michael McCarron, who he's not benching him for lack of effort or lack of, trying to do what the coach is telling him to do. Michael McCarron is in the league because he's given everything he's got every night, and he's doing exactly what the coaches are telling him to do. But the results just aren't there. So I think he felt like he had to do something. But I feel like maybe those are the buttons he's trying to push right now, is just, look, I have to do something. I can't just let everything continue to play. I've got to try to shake people up. And to do that, I've got to make some moves that send a message.
Yeah, you have to do that. And sometimes it's for the player's benefit. When you're having to prepare for a game every second day, you're not playing well. You carry that weight. You carry it around. It doesn't go away just because you have a day off in between. It consumes you. And I think when there's a situation where, like, hey, like, all right, Big Mac, if this is what he does, you're not going tomorrow. Just go clear your mind and just don't worry about it. You can kind of almost exhale. It takes you want to play every game, but of course every single player does. And I thought Andrew Brunette was really effective with that last year, with a lot of the younger players, with Evangelista, with Tomasino. He's able to sit a couple games, and also, it makes you think that your lineup spot isn't a given. That changes the mentality of a player too, because you almost double down on, okay, I have to be a lot better, and like you said, Willie, it's not from a lack of effort with this team or with anybody on this team for that matter. And that, I think, was question mark, a few years ago, that maybe that was part of the equation. It's not that. It's probably, for a guy like McCarron, he's got to reset his mindset right now. He's probably really, struggling in the confidence department. As I think he's not the only one. There's a lot of guys, I think, that have a lot of, self-doubt right now in their game. But sometimes that's a benefit to the players. So the next time they come back, they're ready to go, and you're going to get their best, and not just physically, but mentally. I think it's a good way to clear the mechanism, so to speak. But I think it's important. And there's 82 games. I mean, you're going to get back in there at some point. We saw it last season. He didn't play the first however many games of the season. He came in and he was able to be effective and really have a positive impact on each hockey game. And right now it's just not there. That's just the way it goes. There's ebbs and flows. You're not always going to be at your best. And right now it happens to be, McCarron, along with many, many others that are not at their best. And you're seeing the inconsistent play because of it.
Chris Mason, Predators television analyst. You can catch him and Willie Donick tomorrow night when the Predators host the Colorado Avalanche at Bridgestone Arena. Chris, great stuff. We'll talk next week.
All right. Thank you, guys. Have a good day.
You as well. Chris Mason joining us. 615-737-1025. Coming up next, we've been talking a lot about the messaging that we've heard from the Titans over the past year or so about the direction of the franchise. We're going to pull up something from the recent past and take a look at how the Titans presented their vision and whether we would have done something differently. We'll do that next. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. Join Jared Stillman, Chris Sanders, and Derek Mason at John Bon Jovi's Nashville this Sunday for the pregame show from 9:30 to 11:30. They will break down the Titans' Week 9 matchup against the New England Patriots and give you the latest updates before the game. The pregame show is presented by Parman Tractor and Equipment, Sun Deck Nashville, Sloan's Motorcycle ATV, and award-winning Blue Note Juke Joint and Blue Note Crossroads Bourbon. It is my understanding that the pregame show will be quite spicy on Sunday, Derek. Jared is coming armed with plenty of takes for you and Chris.
I'm not worried about that.
In other words,
What's new?
Just your regular Sunday.
It's just a regular Sunday. Like, I'm not going to worry about that. I'm just going to make him repeat his words he said to me a year ago. I'm just going to tell him, keep repeating what you told me. That will answer all your questions that you're throwing.
If you're looking for some early morning fireworks on Sunday, be sure to be at John Bon Jovi's for the pregame show. One of the issues that the Titans have had over the past year or so is they haven't done a good job of sharing their vision with their fans. Or let me rephrase, they've shared it, but I don't feel like they've done a good job of disseminating it, I guess, in terms of how they've gone about. I'm losing my mind here. But
tempering expectations.
Yes. Thank you.
Setting the expectation from the top of what your team is, the state of your franchise.
Yes. Thank you for bailing me out there, Willie. That's
We're
the
a team,
professional
man. We're a
broadcaster, and I was having a bit of a brain fart there.
We're a team, man. Go ahead.
So Willie,
It's Friday. It happens.
It is Friday. So Willie brought this back up to our attention earlier this week. He sent us the news release from the Tennessee Titans, January 9th, 2024. That is the day that the Titans formerly fired Mike Vrabel, or as they say, part ways. I like how you can't say fired. You have to part ways.
No, you got fired.
He got fired.
Yeah. You got fired.
But Willie sent us the press release from that day in January of this year. And we're going to read a section of, we're not going to read the whole thing from the statement from Amy Adams Strunk, but we're going to read to you the most important section for this conversation. Quote, I will never shy away from acknowledging that I have unapologetically high expectations for the football team and every aspect of the Titans organization. Our vision is not simply to produce more wins than losses. It is to regularly compete for championships. While this season, the past season, was disappointing, I see early signs of progress taking shape. Last year, we added a promising young quarterback and several other talented players to our roster. With a coaching search, enviable cap space, and top 10 draft position, this offseason is as important as any in our history. I'm excited for the weeks and months ahead. We will meet the moment. So that was part of Amy Adams Strunk's statement upon the Titans moving on from Mike Vrabel. So when you hear that statement, Titans fans, as you did in January, and we're gonna talk about it here again, what are you supposed to think when you hear the owner of your favorite football team says those things? To me, that says we've got a bright future and it's going to happen sooner rather than later, almost immediately, is the expectation that she seems to be setting here.
There's nothing wrong with wanting to have a well-run organization that competes for championships. That is the goal of every organization, I would think. But when you are clearly at the end of an era, I don't think it's wise to think it's not realistic to think and throw expectations out to your fan base that you're on the verge of winning. In fact, you should take advantage of the fact that you're hitting the reset button, and it should buy some time for the people that you are entrusting to build the next championship team. So when she says regularly compete for championships, that doesn't mean it has to be this year or this coming year, the year that we're in right now. While this season, this is her quote, while this season was disappointing, I see early signs of progress taking shape. Where were the signs of progress last year? Because that goes completely counter to what she just did. This is the result or this is the reaction to her firing the coach. So obviously there wasn't that much progress. They had regressed. And there's nothing wrong with saying that. That happens to every franchise. I don't care how great you run your franchise. Who are the greatest franchises of all time? The Steelers, do you want to say the Cowboys, the 49ers, the Chiefs, the Patriots? I will point to times in their era where they cycle down and they're awful for a while. It happens. It's what Pete Rozelle created when he created the NFL. Parity. Everybody should have a chance to win. Everybody's got roughly the same resources to win. It's impossible to compete for a championship every year, even for the very, very best. So am I right? That to me is an alarming thing, because she's setting the tone of, for these new guys, I need to win right now, when she knows, or she should know, the 2020, 2021, and 2022 draft classes left them in a terrible spot. They were not on the verge of making a lot of progress. If they were, she wouldn't have fired Mike Vrabel. True?
Yeah, it's true. We're looking at it totally wrong. We're looking at it totally different. We're playing checkers and she's trying to play chess here. It's evident in what she's saying in this message. I said this before, and you won't remember it, Adam, because you were not with us at the time. But Willie will remember this. I said again, I said this offseason will be the most important offseason. And I said this during the season. Right when they, right when things started going downhill and they were losing last year, I said, listen, this upcoming offseason is the most important offseason of the Tennessee Titans franchise ever. It is. And it has nothing to do with their play. It has nothing to do with any of that. We're playing checkers and she's trying to play chess over here. It has everything to do with moving in that new stadium. She can't sell a bad team when she's trying to sell seats.
But that's wrong, though.
Willie, I get it. I get it. These owners are about making money. That's what they're about. But Willie, I know, Willie, you and we agree. I agree with what you're saying. I do. And I agree with what you're saying now, because we're all sort of saying the same things. But Amy isn't thinking like us in respects to, okay, just the field, the play on the field. She sat there and said, listen, we got a promising young
That's the
quarterback.
next part I think we need to
No. But a promising young quarterback does what? Give the fans hope while we're building this new stadium. She's playing. We are sitting here playing checkers. She wants to have because she just said it. It's not about, we're not trying to gain more wins than losses, which you are, but we're trying to win championships. They know they're not winning a championship this year, but they're selling the vision of a new stadium and a team that can win a championship. I'm just telling you how she's thinking. I've said this a long time ago. This is about moving into that stadium. She had to sort of get away from John Robinson because of the draft picks. She had to get away from Mike Vrabel because she wanted her team back in a sense. Everything that she's doing is pointing toward that stadium. She wants butts in those seats. So how do you get butts in those seats? I got to continue to give fans hope that we are going to be a good team. I may not agree with it. And again, I am not agreeing with it. The message should have been different, and you wouldn't be having a lot of people so upset right now.
That's what we're getting at.
But I'm telling you what she's possibly thinking. I am building a new stadium. I can't sell a team that's not going anywhere, and I don't know when this thing is going to get right. I got to sell. We got a promising young quarterback, which last year, at the end of the last season, a lot of people were like, yes, Will Levis.
Okay,
yes,
bad moments. All right, so a promising young quarterback. To put it in the press release, though, that is
But that's
wrong.
what she got to do it.
Unrealistic.
That's how she got to do it.
Okay, but he, in your mind, he might be a promising young quarterback at the time. But this is where you get burned, putting it in the press release.
I'm not
and
saying you're wrong,
basically
Willie.
saying the next coach is going to make this guy a star. And then here's the part that really, look at this in retrospect. A promising young quarterback. This is her quote. Let me give you the full quote. Last year, we added a promising young quarterback and several other talented players to our roster.
She's selling
Who
the
were the
program.
talented players
She's
besides You're promising
Jeffrey
young quarterback.
Simmons.
No.
Tajay
He wasn't added
Spears.
last year.
No. Tajay Spears.
No. Last
Tajay
year,
won. Who did
Jeffrey
they draft?
Simmons doesn't count. He was drafted in 2019.
She's
Tajay Spears,
Which again, I am just
Peter Skoronsky. Who are the guys that at
Who
the
are
end
the
of last year
Who are the several other talented players that they
were
to the
added last
roster?
year?
Listen, I am just
There
only,
are none.
I am just only going
DeAndre
by
Hopkins.
DeAndre Hopkins.
Okay,
They added him
maybe.
last year. Who else did they add last year? They added a few defensive
Arden
players.
Key was
Most of those
one.
guys
Arden,
are.
some of those guys.
Come on, but
Willie,
the fans don't buy that.
Willie, the fans did buy it.
That's my problem.
They bought it.
It's back,
Hook, line, and sinker.
Right. So you fooled them right away for a while in the offseason. But it didn't fool me, right? I was saying it all summer. Look at the power rankings. Look at everybody who covers this league. They have the Titans from 25th through 32nd. They predict their record's going to be 6-11. The over-under wins are 6.5. That should tell you something. But they tried to pull the wool over everybody's eyes, and I don't think that helps Rand Carthon or Chad Brinker or Brian Callahan with the expectations.
But it's not.
All they had to do was say, I don't know what we're going to be.
Listen, it's not about.
This is a new era. We're moving on
She
from
can't-
Vrabel.
she
We're
can't
moving
do
on from
that.
Derrick Henry. Yes, she could.
No, she can't.
Absolutely,
Willie, if
they
they were
could.
not building the new stadium, then yes, the message
The
probably
stadium's
would have
still
been.
a ways away. They got a long way to go.
It will be here before we know it. Hell, we're already in 2025. It will be here before we know it. She's trying to get those tickets sold, man. She's trying to get butts in those seats. And what we saw last year in Will Levis, we all had some type of promise or some type of, okay, that was his rookie year. He had some good moments and he had some bad moments. But man, oh man, this guy looks like he can be that guy. Then you add Brian Callahan, and you're thinking like, oh man, he comes from Cincinnati. Look at what they did. Oh man, we should have it. She's selling basically hope in a sense. That's what she's selling. And you can't blame her for that.
I think you can do that without sort of intimating that it's going to be way better next year.
How many?
It wasn't going to be way better.
How many owners?
Even in the best case
No,
scenario.
I'm saying how many NFL owners? I'm not talking about the other sports. How many NFL owners comes out and they say that? None. None.
You shouldn't say anything.
But my thing is, she has to sell something. This is not all about just the play on the field. And she said that. This is not about just that. It's about building a stadium. It's about making sure, giving the fans hope so they then go buy those seats in those stadiums. Because if I'm not preaching hope and I'm not preaching this is the type of team we're gonna have, I believe, then who's gonna buy the tickets? If she goes out there and say, listen, we are in rebuild mode. We're gonna have to get rid of a lot of these players, that have been here, that have contributed to us winning. We got to get rid of half of them, and then we got to go in the draft and hope we get some real players. And oh, by the way, we building this stadium that we don't want y'all to help fund, and then we want y'all to pay for these seats. I'm gonna look at you like, well, listen, when you get your team right, then I'll pay for those seats. But until then, I'm not doing it.
615-737-1025. That's the question that we want to ask all of you. Had Amy Adams Strunk in the news release firing Mike Vrabel said something to the effect that Derek just laid out, how would you have reacted? It would have been a little bit, it would have been a little bit. But
it would have to be better crafted, and it's not. You don't come out and say we're going to stink. There's a way to do it. Even if you don't want to use the word rebuilding. And Adam has found. We were talking about this last night. Another example of a team that went through a change of the guard, a changing of the era, a reset, a re-something, a Trotzification, whatever. Because if you don't want to use the word rebuild, I get it, because it is kind of a negative thing, especially in the locker room and negative with your fan base. But there are ways to do it, and Adam has an example.
Yes, and I will share that example with you. Coming up next, Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Bingen, 102.5, 106.3, The Game.
All right, let's check in with Lee Company, 615-567-1000. Weather's going to start getting a little bit cooler. Is your heating unit working properly? These are just one of many questions that Lee Company can answer for you year-round with your relationship with a company that's been in business since 1944 in our listening area. LeeCompany.com is the website, 615-567-1000, the phone number. They're a big sponsor of our Nashville Predators coverage. Tomorrow night at 6 o'clock, Nashville tries to bounce back from a poor performance last night against the Oilers and get a win against the Avalanche. Max Hers will start our coverage at 6 o'clock, and Lee Company is a big sponsor of that. Lee Company has got you covered. They cover us in the Donick household with our plumbing, heating, electric, and cooling procedures in the house. It is comforting to know that they have our backs at all times. 615-567-1000 or LeeCompany.com. Lee Company, proud sponsor, Nashville Predators.
D. Mays, Fingan, and Donick, 102.5, 106.3 the game. Wes from Hermitage on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, says, I think Willie and D. Mace need to hug it out after that one. You guys want to give each other a hug?
Oh, Willie and I, we all right.
Yeah,
yeah, Willie and I.
I like when Willie gets a little spicy.
Yeah,
it doesn't happen always, but the passion is there, and I appreciate that.
What is his name? When that happens, he becomes Louis.
He'll be Louis.
Yeah, yes, Louis.
When Willie's mad, it's Louis.
Yeah,
Louis
Louis.
Donick.
Louis Donick.
He'll be Louis. So Willie and I were sitting next to each other at the Predators game last night, and we were talking about what we just talked about on the air. And it reminded me of a similar situation that another team, it's not an NFL team, but it's a high-profile team in another league that went through a similar process and how they explained it to their fans. In February of 2018, the New York Rangers were down bad. They were a consistent playoff team, usually one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference. They went to the Stanley Cup final in 2014. They lost to the LA Kings, but they were always in the mix. And then it started to slip away. They started to struggle.
And why? For example, their goalie for a long time, Henrik Lundqvist, started getting older.
Yes.
Among some of their other players on that team.
Right. So on February 8th, 2018, the New York Rangers posted an open letter on their website from Glenn Sather, their team president, and Jeff Gorton, their general manager at the time. Rangers fans call this, quote unquote, the letter. That's how it's known among Rangers fans. And listen to how Glenn Sather and Jeff Gorton explain the situation that the Rangers found themselves in the middle of the 2018 season. Quote, in part, as we do every season, we have been continuously evaluating our team, looking for areas that can be improved to enhance our chances of winning. We began the process of reshaping our team this past summer when we traded for assets that we believe will help us in the years to come. As we approach the trade deadline later this month and into the summer, we will be focused on adding young, competitive players that combine speed, skill, and character. This may mean we lose some familiar faces, guys we all care about and respect. While this is part of the game, it's never easy. Our promise to you is that our plans will be guided by our singular commitment, ensuring we are building the foundation for our next Stanley Cup contender. It then continues. We do not take your support for granted. We appreciate that you have always stood by us, and we ask you to remain by our side as we undertake this exciting new chapter filled with promise and change, end quote. The Rangers traded a lot of high-profile players around this time. And then in following years, they traded Rick Nash. They traded Ryan McDonough. They traded JT Miller. The following year, they traded Matt Zuccarello. I think Brady Shea may have also been involved in this purge. He was a member of the New York Rangers. But that is how the Rangers explained what was going on with their team. At that time, it appeared they were going to miss the playoffs after consistently making the playoffs. And they laid it out. We're looking for young pieces. We are going to trade away players you love, but we hope it is for the best moving
Ryan
forward.
McDonough was the captain.
Ryan McDonough was the captain of that team. I know that how NHL teams operate and NFL teams operate are apples and oranges in many respects. But why could the Titans not do something like this? If you are a Titans fan, this is in 615-737-1025. If you were a Titans fan and Amy Adams Strunk wrote a letter at the time they fired Mike Vrabel that sounded similar to this, how would you have taken it? How would you have felt? Because this is an example of a team, an original six franchise in the NHL, a proud franchise in New York City. Explained.
They have probably the most expensive tickets are among them.
Oh,
in
absolutely.
The league.
This is how they explained it. And I think it was the right thing to do.
I could not have worded that better than Glenn Sather did. So I will turn to D-Mace in a moment after making this point that fans are going to take it how they take it, right? I'm sure the day they put that letter out there, there were probably some irate New Yorkers calling the talk shows going, what are they doing? I'm paying all this money to go to the games. You know, that's my 2-bit New York voice. But you know how people are. Like, if you want some fun.
I think you should have a better New York accent.
I could have gone more Brooklyn
but he was so,
into it. Yeah, I could have gone heavy into it.
Now.
I mean, you could pull up some on YouTube. Some of the day after the meltdown the Yankees had, you can have pretty comical calls, you know, calling that Aaron Judge doesn't deserve to wear the Yankee uniform. Like, it's crazy. Like, the guy hit like 60 home runs.
Yeah.
But my point is this. The fans are going to react how they are. But at the end of the day, as history goes forward, you have that letter that says, we told you what we were going to do. this was our vision of how we're going to go about it, and not trying to pull the wool over everybody's eyes. They were realistic. That's what the Titans had the opportunity to do and didn't. They sort of pitched this, we can turn it around super quick because we have all this cap space and we have all these, quote, promising young quarterback and several other talented players we added last year, when that just wasn't the case. They didn't have the nucleus of a winning team that's on the verge of winning. They were closing the window on a very successful era, and they could have celebrated that and said, now we got to start over. I don't know how long it's going to take. In that letter that Glenn Sather had, does he say at all, we're rebuilding, we're going to lose?
No.
That's my point. So, D-Mace, what did you think of that letter? Was that the chess and checkers? Or what game was that?
Yeah.
Was that Chinese checkers, regular checkers, chess,
that was
Parcheesi,
that was-
Othello?
I love Othello.
That was
Mousetrap.
That was listen, pertaining to their fan base and whatnot, that was what they needed to do. They're able to do it because when you are perennially a good team, you get leeway. They give you leeway. When you won championships, I think their last championship was 7 years ago, somewhere around there. When you won championships, people tend to give you a little grace. They tend to, okay, I may not like it, but y'all have given us championships. Y'all do play well y'all entertain us. Yeah, so if it takes a year, I hope it doesn't take longer than a year or 2 years, because if it does, the hell with what you said. I want you to win now.
I should note that the Rangers have not won the Stanley Cup since 1994.
Right.
So although
they were consistent winners,
consistently-
but they had not won the, quote, cup. They
right.
hadn't won the cup.
They had made it to the
Well,
Stanley Cup
they made it to
final.
the
they were
final.
conference champions.
Yes, in
Right,
2014.
2014. Yeah, so the
Yeah,
seven-
so not
so-
too far removed from some really good wins. No
Exactly.
question.
And they've all they are perennially a good team.
Correct.
So you can sell that.
But the
with-
Titans were
No.
not too far.
No,
not too
no.
far.
No,
I
Titans
remember
had too
Derrick
many.
Henry running for
No.
touchdowns.
It wasn't long enough.
AFC Championship.
It wasn't long enough. You only gave me I was thirsty and you gave me just a drop. That's all you did was give me a drop
They
of
did give
water.
him a drop.
That's all you
A
did.
number one
It
seed?
was a good drop.
Number one
but it
seed,
was-
the Bengals?
Yeah, you
I
got
did.
number one seed. Yeah, that was a drop.
Okay, it's a drop.
This little drop. The drop. Okay. So listen, they can do that with their fan base because they've got enough equity in it. So the fan base, they may not like it, but they believe in their franchise, they believe in their organization. So they say they're going to turn it around quickly. Even though she said, the owner says it may be a process, we expect them to turn it around quickly, because if you don't, Willie, you know this, Adam, you know this, New York fans, yeah, we heard what you said last year, but we forgot about it this year. And if y'all ain't winning, we're going to be on you. Once again, that's just how New York fans are.
And
okay?
the Rangers, by the way, won the President's Trophy last season. They were the best team in the regular season. They made it
Yeah.
to the second round of the playoffs.
So
Or was it the third?
They were able to expedite it a lot faster. So the fan base is good now. Do they want them to win championships? Yes. So they sold it the right way, and it worked out perfectly for them. Okay. When you look at the Titans haven't given people enough sweat equity. They haven't given the fan base enough to say, be patient. We will get back to where we once were. We are a championship winning team. We'll get back to that. Just give us a little time. Fan base is probably okay with that. They'll probably say, yeah, we can continue to brag about the championship we won. Just don't make it too long. All right. But when you haven't been there, you gotta keep the fan base held close to you.
But I think you build up credibility
I
as
get
an
it.
organization when you are honest.
Well,
And-
she was honest.
Well,
Based
okay,
upon her honesty was
if she believed she was being honest, I'm
Exactly.
not questioning that, but she wasn't realistic. She
realistic
wasn't
is probably a better word, but she was honest about what
and
she was
so
saying.
as
based
a
upon
result,
what
I think
was
she
saying.
loses credibility. When you're saying we made progress, but I just fired my coach, that goes completely against making
I don't
progress.
think she lose
They
credit.
regressed from 2 years before being the number 1 seed and winning back-to-back divisions.
I don't think you lose. I don't think she loses. At least not with me.
They had an aging roster.
At least not with me. She's not going to lose credibility with me. Why? Because I know what this organization looked like when there were like 2 or 3 people in charge to what it looks like now. I know the effort that she put in to make that a place, as you know, the practice facility, the players welcome, former players, all this other stuff. I know what she's been trying to do in regards to that. So she's looking at it from the standpoint of, listen, I'm telling you what I feel, what I see as an owner, and it's going to be optimistic. And we got a new stadium being built, so I have to keep y'all engaged, because if I tell you that, you know, it's going to take 2-3 years, you're not going to be engaged as a fan. You're not going to come to games. You're not going to watch us on television unless we do what the Predators did. And, you know, they didn't think we were going to the playoffs, but we end up having one of those seasons and we're in the playoffs. So now everybody's engaged again. And now this year for the Predators, the stakes are even higher because they figure y'all went to the playoffs last year and the team is even better. The Titans are trying to sell, listen, we still have a good young team. We just got to add some more pieces, and the outlook seems to be pretty good. Our quarterback, based on last year, the time that he played, he showed some signs of being that guy, and everybody bought into it. Now, we may have bought into, you know, the record in regards to them being a playoff team, but we all bought into Will Levis potentially being that guy. He had shown us as a rookie, okay, he got something in him. He showed the owner, so she's going to roll with that. She's going to run with that. And she's building a new stadium.
She's been watching pro football long enough to know that it can go a lot of different ways.
But she ain't going to, until it changes, she ain't going to tell you we're going to have a bad team and our quarterback sucks. Because what we see for the quarterback,
you don't have to say the quarterback sucks.
You say it's a new era. I'm excited about these new guys that we have. We're turning over a new leaf. I'm not sure what's going to happen. You be patient.
That's in the fan base,
be patient.
Football fans,
let's see what happens.
Football fans are not going to be patient.
And exciting. It's new
football
and exciting.
Fans are not patient. They're just not. We all know that, and I don't blame them. I don't blame
New York fans are definitely not
exactly New York fans. But then they got that thing back on track.
Yes, and so
eventually,
yes.
But they did go through it.
There was a stretch of time where they missed the playoffs. I think 3 out of 4 years. Mm-hmm. But now
in the aftermath of this, right?
In the aftermath of this, including the season where the letter came out.
Yeah.
I think they missed the playoffs 3 of 4 years. But now they're among the top teams in the league again.
So
hey, when do you think the next time the Titans are going to make the playoffs?
I don't know. I if I knew, I sure enough be in the casino right now.
Do you think she's going to put a letter out at the end of this year and say we're going to make the playoffs next year? That wouldn't be very smart, would it?
No, but if she does put out a letter, it would be one of encouragement.
You could be encouraging.
It will be one of
promise.
Hey, listen, I guarantee you,
we're going to
this
be
is what it
under promise and over deliver.
Under
promise.
I get that.
Over-deliver.
That's the business model, and it works. I get it. But here, she's going to sell. We got some young, promising guys. We have Calvin Ridley,
who's not young.
We have Pollard. Calvin Ridley is relatively young, 28 years old.
He's 30.
Oh, he's 30 already. Gosh, man, the kid's old. But no, he's not old. He's not old.
Let's not include him in that.
We got Pollard. We got
also
JC. We got who else? Some of these young gues that are on the roster.
This is the problem.
No. I'm not talking about young guys. No, I'm
list.
not talking about young guys under 26. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm just saying young guys in relative to guys that we can move forward with as we're moving into the new stadium. That's what I'm saying. I'm just telling you what she's going to sell.
I think that we should revisit this topic in the next hour. But before we do, Nicole Yang, who reports on the New England Patriots for the Boston Globe, will join us to preview this matchup between the Titans and the Patriots. If you want to get in on the conversation we're having, and we'll get back to it in just a little bit, 615-737-1025. We already have plenty of texts on it, and we'll take them all. But Nicole Yang coming up next from the Boston Globe. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025-1063, The Game. D Mace, Vingan and Donick, 1025, 1063 The Game, broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service Willie Donick, Derek Mason, and Adam Vingan here with you. Some quick Titans notes to pass along. The expectation is that Will Levis will be listed as questionable for the Titans game against the New England Patriots on Sunday. Also, L'Jarius Sneed will not play again for the Tennessee Titans. So no L'Jarius Sneed.
He will someday, but not Sunday.
Yes, someday.
When you said he will not play
He
again.
will not play.
I thought you were like, forever?
Don't scare fans like that, Adam. That's what I was like. He's not playing ever again.
I mean, Halloween was last night. Like,
what
he
I
will not
meant
play
to say
again.
is that he will not play on Sunday against the Patriots. Will Levis is questionable. On our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Nicole Yang, Patriots reporter for the Boston
I'm sure Nicole
Globe.
was opening her notebook, like scribbling down. Wait a minute. L'Jarius Sneed is done.
He's never
he's
playing
not, he
again.
vanished. Somebody
You didn't hear that from me. But Nicole, obviously we spend a lot of time around here talking about Will Levis and the development of Will Levis. I imagine that the majority of your conversations are about Drake May and the development of Drake May. I know that he's in concussion protocol, but it appears he's on track to start on Sunday against the Tennessee Titans. What is the level of discourse around Drake May like in New England right now?
As far as this game, or just like his
In
general?
general.
I mean, I think he's the lone bright spot right now for Patriots fans. So each game, they really just turn to Drake for any sort of hope for the future, a player they can build around. And so far, he's delivered. I think in his 2 starts, fans are really encouraged by not only his arm strength. The Patriots could not have any sort of explosive 20-plus yard plays this season. And then Drake comes in, and you start to see that be part of the offense. And then also his ability to use his legs. That's clearly been a strength of his in college, and we're seeing that now as well. He's able to move out of the pocket, scramble, and that's just not something we saw a ton with Jacoby Brissett.
Nicole, clearly the Patriots have fallen on hard times, especially considering what they were able to do for so long with Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. I know Gerard Mayo is working to build his own culture in New England. How is that process going, and what are some positive signs you have seen from Gerard Mayo as coach as he tries to get the Patriots back on track?
I mean, I would say it's definitely been a process. There's certainly been downs. I think we're kind of trending in an upward direction just because they were finally able to win a game. In that 6-game skid, though, it definitely was getting a little rocky. You had grumpy receivers and people calling out other teammates. So it's difficult, I think, to establish a culture as a first-year coach when you don't have results to back up what you're preaching. So when Gerard called the team soft for them to get a win, even though it took some help from the Jets' dysfunction, but for them to get that win, I think was really big. And you're seeing players defend Gerard, buy in. So I think they're hoping to build off of it during this stretch of their schedule.
We'll talk with Nicole Yang, discussing the Tennessee Titans and the New England Patriots this upcoming weekend here in Nashville. Now, Nicole, what has been the message from the owner? Because that's what we're trying to decipher here in Nashville. The message that Amy put out last season was a message of hope, and may have been a little bit too hopeful or deceiving in a sense. And now fans are upset. So what has been the message early on headed into the season from the owner Kraft about a team that is pretty much is in rebuild mode?
Yeah, I think owners always have a little bit of too much optimism. I think Robert expressed a similar sentiment and was like, I would love to see us make the playoffs. He just always, that's his bars. He wants postseason appearances and wins. And that's just clearly not on the table for this team right now. So as he speaks more recently, it's more about like, I hope we don't struggle too much. And I hope we end the season on an upward trajectory and look to signs for optimism, which would be Drake. So I would say that ownership's focus is building around that nucleus of Gerard, Drake, and their new GM, Elliott Wolf, and going from there.
Now, looking at this Patriots team, and them coming here to Nashville, what has been the talk about the Tennessee Titans? Because obviously we have a perception here about the Titans because we've watched them up to this point this season. They hadn't been that good. But what is the perception there? What are they talking about there in New England in regards to the Tennessee Titans?
It seems like the conversation is the Titans don't have a very good offense, but they have a good defense. And the big talking point with the offense is the turnover differential. And I think even though there's a little bit of uncertainty at quarterback, I think the defense is hoping to log some takeaways. And then on the flip side, for the Patriots defense, with the run game, that's been a big issue for them, is stopping the run. So I think if the Titans choose to turn to the run, then that would be the test for the Patriots.
You know, you just talked about the hopefulness for Drake May. And when you're trying to turn a franchise around, you need to stack good drafts together when you're building back up. How would you evaluate some of the other recent draft picks? Because that's going to be obviously very important for the Patriots as they build back.
Yeah, for sure. So obviously in the second round, they have Jalen Polk. So far, that hasn't necessarily panned out, I would say, in the way that they would have hoped, but it's still very early, just week 9. He's struggling with some drops, and also the wide receiver group in general in New England is struggling with sort of keeping things in-house and not making sort of their complaints public. So I think he's dealing with how to balance social media and things like that. Javon Baker also hasn't really been able to get on the field, and wide receiver is a big position of need. So the fact that those two players haven't really been able to carve out roles has been disappointing. But again, I think they're trying to preach patience there. Caden Wallace and Layden Robinson, 2 offensive linemen that they drafted in the 3rd and 4th round. They've seen some playing time, but now Wallace is on IR. Robinson has been on and off the field. So it's been mixed results, spotty, I would say. Joe Milton doesn't really see the field. Marcellus Dial is mainly a special teams player. So they definitely don't have like a reliable contributor from this draft class other than Drake yet. So I think that they're hoping that something will materialize throughout the second half of the season.
The Patriots fans, it would be easy to say from afar that it would be, I think, human nature that they would be a little spoiled after all those years of winning. What's it like these days, especially when you see, like we're watching ESPN right now, Bill Belichick is doing his thing with Peyton Manning. We know Tom Brady is super high profile with the big game every week that he calls. So what is that like for Patriots fans right now? What's the discourse?
Yeah, I think until the results start to change, I think there are going to be a lot of Bill apologists. When Tom left, there are a lot of, like, when Tom left, it exposed to Bill the value of Tom. And now when Bill left, I think it's exposed to Robert Kraft the value of Bill. So I think in the moments immediately following, especially when there's no results, there's just like a longing for the people that left. So until they can really turn things around, I think people are going to be anti whatever the current regime is because of just the extended success that they're used to.
Nicole Yang, Patriots reporter for the Boston Globe, joining us on D-Mace, Vingan, and Donick. Nicole, thank you so much for your time. Enjoy the game this weekend.
Thank you so much. You too, guys.
Nicole Yang from Boston, previewing Patriots Titans. Some interesting parallels there with Gerard Mayo struggling in his first season, trying to build a culture, especially following Bill Belichick. Mike Vrabel built a strong culture too, but Mike Vrabel is certainly not Bill Belichick. But some interesting parallels there, I thought, hearing her talk about what's been going on in New England as they're trying to start from scratch and what the Titans are experiencing right now.
I think they're, when you're in a situation like that, the problem is you're the regime after the winning regime. And anytime you're the regime after the winning regime, the likelihood of you winning is very slim because they got rid of the winning regime because they were losing and the roster wasn't where it needed to be. So they felt they needed to make changes. And maybe, just maybe, they're starting to see now, and she said it, Bill saw the value of Tom when he left, and Robert now sees the value of Bill now that he's gone. So will those championships, keep the fan base at bay for a little while longer as they're starting to build this franchise back up? Luckily for them, they probably, like the Titans did last year, they probably believe they have their quarterback. So that sort of cures
But
one
do
of the
we know
ailments.
that's
Exactly.
the thing.
Yes, exactly.
I think the parallel too is you've got Gerard Mayo. This is I think an interesting thing that happens in sports. Gerard Mayo gets the job, and he's been there, right? He has been part of the Patriots family, but he's got to go through the tough times that he inherited. But who ends up taking the fall most of the time is the coach, because that's why I asked about the draft picks beyond Drake May. I'm looking at an Athletic article where they're getting awful results from everybody in that draft class other than Drake May. And Drake May, at the end of the day, hadn't played very much, right?
No.
He looks encouraging. He looks like he might be good. But we certainly don't know yet.
No.
But for Gerard Mayo to succeed, he did not inherit any talent to speak of that's going to win games. He's got to build through the draft. And is he going to survive those years? It's going to be a while before the Patriots can be good, unless Drake May lights the world on fire, which would be a different story. And that's why I do think of Mike Vrabel as the guy after the guy.
Yeah.
Because there was all that speculation last year as well. They'll hire Mike Vrabel. That's the guy that they want. That's the guy he wants that job. Remember that whole conspiracy that Jared was floating for a while, that Vrabel, he wants to be that he went and he said all those things to the Patriots fans. But really, you're better off being the guy that after the fire, after all of the fallout and the quote rebuild, that the team would be ready to start winning. And that's when a lot of times a team changes coaches and the new coach can come in with something to work with.
615-737-1025. I want to get back into what we were talking about before with the messaging of the Titans. We talked about Amy Adams Strunk's statement after the Titans fired Mike Vrabel. I read to you the letter that the New York Rangers put out in February of 2018, and we got plenty of reaction on that, and I want to continue to take that reaction. 615-737-1025. We'll do that next. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025-1063, The Game.
Mark your calendars. November 9th, the Iron Goddess all-female show is coming to Nashville, which is sponsored by our friends over at Law Tigers. Meet us at the fairgrounds as female riders from all over the world will be in attendance. Come out and see some of these beautiful custom bikes, from choppers to mini bikes, from cruisers to sports bikes. All makes and models are encouraged to come. Get your tickets now at IronGoddessMotorcycleShow.com. That's IronGoddessMotorcycleShow.com, which is sponsored by Law Tigers. Enjoy a day of live music, vendor village, tasty foods, and so much more. Show off your bike in one of their many competitions and win cash prizes. All spectators are welcome, and kids under 16 are free with paid tickets. So get your tickets today. IronGoddessMotorcycleShow.com, which is sponsored by Law Tigers. We can't wait to see you there.
D. Mace, Finken, and Donick, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. We've been just rolling through this show, so much so that we forgot to have Ask D. Mace today. We apologize.
Man.
That's my bad, guys.
No, don't worry about it.
No,
I mean, there are movies made about things like this, right?
Absolutely. There'd be a 30 for 30 for
16
about
candles. Sam, we
The
forgot
day
your
they
birthday.
forgot Ask D. Mace. It was a cold night.
We're going to do a 30 for 30
It was
on
the
there.
day after Halloween.
Or is it going to be a 15 for 15? I mean,
A Nashville 15 for 15.
We'll sit cross-legged on the table, like at the end of 16 Candles.
Eric from
Hey.
Nashville was just, he expected to make
Yes.
a dad joke on November 1st. but
Well,
it didn't
Eric, if you're
happen.
listening,
we're sorry, man.
We have ruined Eric's day. There's
hold
no
on,
question about
hold
it.
on to that dad joke. We will definitely make sure we have Ask D. Mace at the regularly scheduled time of 12:30 next Friday. But you know what? Maybe we'll sneak in an extra Ask D. Mace next week to make up for it.
Exactly.
So you can get your questions in for Derek all week long.
We are the show of the people.
We are the show of the people. And speaking of the people, Chris from Franklin, who is a Patriots fan, is on our phone line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Chris, thank you for calling. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon. How are you, gentlemen?
Good, thank you.
I grew up in Boston. I moved here about 20 years ago, but I'm always a Patriots fan. And I get tired of people whining. The Patriots won 6 Super Bowls. I lived through I'm old enough to have lived through the Sullivan years. I don't know if you guys remember that. Or the Victor Cayenne, the James Orthwine.
Oh, yeah.
The whole Chuck Fairbanks debacle. When they,
Chris,
when they
yesterday we were
sacked him.
talking about a stat that Adam brought up about the first-year coaches in 1990. So you would probably remember this, Chris. Do you remember the 1-15 Patriots coach in 1990?
Oh, was it Dick? I forget his last name, from Syracuse.
I think Dick McPherson came in after him, I think, but it was Rod Rust. His one and only year as an NFL head coach, 1-15 for the Patriots.
No wonder he didn't get another
They
head
went through
coaching
some
job.
lean times in the early 90s, pre-Parcells, right?
He was their defensive coordinator the year before. After they fired Raymond Berry.
That's right. That's right. So your
I
point
think-
is everybody goes through tough times, right?
Yes, and I think Gerard Mayo is a bridge to somebody else, and I think two people have gotten screwed in the last couple of years. I think Mike Vrabel got screwed in here in Tennessee. I think he was, I think he was a good coach. He didn't get to make the draft picks though. And I think Mac Jones got screwed in New England because he had 3 different offensive coordinators in 3 years. Actually 2, because the guy in the middle was the defensive coordinator, and who turned to offense. And you can't succeed like that with 3 different coordinators and 3 different programs in 3 years. And so I would like to see Mike. And remember, the team they have now, Gerard Mayo. He didn't do the draft picks. It was they have a quote unquote general manager, but I think it was Jonathan Kraft that probably did the draft picks. And I love the Krafts. The Krafts saved the team. I don't know if anybody remembers Schaefer Stadium. That was a horrible place to go watch a game. And Bob Kraft did a great job. He built that stadium with all his own money. Didn't ask anybody for a handout. And I think you'll see Vrabel in New England before you know it. He has a lot of goodwill in New England. He was great when he was here. He was loved because he caught 2 touchdown passes in a Super Bowl, if you remember correctly. And he was a linebacker. And I think you're going to see Vrabel in New England because he has a good relationship with the Krafts. He's got coaching experience under his belt, and he's a tough guy. I mean, he doesn't play fools very well. And I would love to have him as a coach in New England.
Thank you for the call, Chris. And by the way, there's no doubt that Chris, as he said, is from Boston.
Oh, yeah. You hear it through and through.
That was the accent. Do you think people in Franklin, where Chris lives, are jarred whenever he opens his mouth? I mean, I can't imagine there are a lot of Bostonians living in Franklin. I don't know. Maybe
could
there
be,
are.
could not, but we know one that lives in.
Yes.
in
Thank you for
Franklin.
calling, Chris.
Thank
And
you,
he
Chris.
loves his
Appreciate it.
dogs.
I think outside perspective like this is important because I know we get tunnel vision on the teams that play here, but I think sometimes it is good to reference what is going on around a league. What are examples of what goes on with other franchises who get into the similar types of cycles?
I would have loved, and thank you for calling. We appreciate it. But I would have loved to ask him, what if Robert Kraft, he heard the message, because obviously he's listened to the show. He heard the message that you guys read off about Amy and her message to Titans fans. I wonder what he would have thought if Robert Kraft came out with a similar message. Would he have embraced that message, knowing what type of team they had, or would he have rather for Robert Kraft to say, hey, listen, we are in complete rebuild mode. It may take some years to get back to where we once were, but be patient with us. I would have loved to hear his answer based upon that, because he comes from a fan base that has 6 championships, and they dominated the last decade and a half or 2 decades in football. Does that build up enough goodwill that I can come out as an owner and say, listen, we have a rebuilding team. The team may not be as good as what you all have experienced, but we're going to continue to work hard. We're going to continue to try to build this team back up. Be patient with us. I wonder if he would have heard that, how he would have reacted as a Patriot fan.
As I said.
So before I forget, Chris called back and he wanted me to let you guys know that his friends from Franklin asked him to say certain words since he had that big Boston accent.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I imagine your daughter has quite the experience with that in school.
Oh, yeah. Well, and of course, my wife, her dad grew up in Attleboro, Mass. So Chris sounds exactly like my wife's dad and uncles and aunts and cousins and everything. So I knew exactly where I could have named exactly where he was from after about 2 sentences, even if he didn't say. I'm a Patriots fan. I'm from Massachusetts.
We would have known just by hearing his voice. But while we were having the conversation previously about messaging, Jesse texted in and said, people can relate with hard times and give understanding and compassion when the honest truth comes out. Don't sugarcoat reality. Just tell us how it is. I mean, if the Amy speech was in line with reality, people would support because they are included and understand the plan.
Well, it was her reality. And part of it was the reality, I think, of the fan base. They saw Will Levis. We got calls about how encouraged the fan base was about Will Levis and his play. Did they think he was perfect? No, they didn't think he was perfect, but they were encouraged by some of the things that they saw. And they thought this season last season they felt was a springboard. This season was going to be, okay, he's going to show us he's the guy. And thus far, it hasn't shown that to be. So she, again, she told her truth, what she saw. I don't think she was trying to, other than, she's trying to sell tickets too to that new stadium, best believe. But I think she spoke from a place of, okay, I see this team. I listen to what, management is saying as far as the GM, president, coach. I'm listening to everybody that I'm seeing it. I'm optimistic about where we can go as a team. So that's what I'm going to give the Tennessee Titans fans in my press release.
I think you can be optimistic. I think this is the point that Willie and I were making and some of the listeners were making. You can be optimistic while also not overselling it.
No. And I agree.
I think that's the mistake. In a nutshell, I think that's the mistake they made.
Exactly. And I agree with both of y'all. I do. And I don't want nobody to sit here, because I know how people take my words and they turn them around.
Who would do that?
Exactly. I am not saying y'all two are wrong. Y'all are right. I'm just giving you the other side of the coin. Like, maybe this is why, because she has to sell tickets to that new stadium. So she can't be all doom and gloom in a sense and saying, hey, listen, we're on a rebuild. We don't know how long this is going to take. You be patient with us. And then my next question is, how long should we be patient with you when you're asking us for money for this new stadium that a lot of people, frankly, are complaining about?
Oh, yes. David, that's going to be a story in the years going forward here.
David, cue up the Lionel Richie, because Mark from Nashville is on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. So, David, if you want to get some Lionel Richie. Mark, thank you for calling, my friend. Please go ahead.
David, don't do that. Don't do it, David.
I know, Mark. I know.
Yeah.
Well, hey, man, Chris from Massachusetts, Marsh from the dirty South. So I guess, they will be good on that. But, hey, everything y'all been talking about with the owner of the Titans, Amy, maybe she should have came or took a different approach, because the people out here know this is a rebuild. They know that the Titans have gotten to a point that they're in a true rebuild. Maybe she couldn't say it that way. Maybe Rand couldn't say it that way or not. But honesty is something they should have took the approach with D. Mace.
No, I agree with you.
And Willie, they should have took honesty and said that. But the thing, I'm gonna tell you the thing that bothers me about the Titans franchise. You've only had one franchise quarterback in the history of that franchise in Nashville, not Houston. One franchise quarterback. For what reason there is, why is it they can't get that quarterback position right? Why is it they can't draft that guy? It's not Levis. It's not going to be Levis. That's why he sit in that room like he did on draft night. It's not going to be him. Why is it they can't get the quarterback position right for the Tennessee Titans? That's my biggest problem with them. But, hey, man, y'all have a good weekend. So, hey, Adam, please don't play that song.
Did you hear it underneath your explanation?
Mark is begging you.
Yeah. I heard it.
You didn't acknowledge it, so I just wanted to make sure.
Hey, he tried to bypass it, man.
hey, Willie. If y'all quit playing that song, I promise I won't call you Peter Popoff anymore, man. I'll stay away
That's
from that.
a deal.
Willie.
That's a deal. I got you, Mark.
Yeah, I'll stay with that. But hey, man, y'all have a big old weekend. See you later, my friend. D. Mace, Adam, and Willie. Good
All
guys.
right, Mark.
All
right. Thank you for calling, Mark. As always.
I'm going to take something that Mark said and build on it. He said, the fans know. The fans knew it was a rebuild. You know who else deep down knows it's a rebuild, and I don't think he would admit it?
Rand?
Jared. He knows it's a rebuild. When the schedule came out, how many wins he predicted the team to have?
4, 5.
So I want to be clear about
5.
this, because I want to be clear about this. And Jared, I know you're listening, so you'll text me if I'm wrong. So Jared and Ian do a show where they have their expectations.
Yes.
That is different than the predictions. So Ian's expectation was 4 wins. Jared's expectation was 5 wins. If I'm not mistaken, Jared's official prediction was 7-10, because that was my prediction as well. So I'm just, but to your point, he did not expect the Titans to be good.
And that's my point. The expectation in his mind was 4 or 5 wins. And he spent a whole show doing it. I listened to Jared's show. So this is my point. He knows it's a rebuild because he's not dumb, right? Sometimes we think he's dumb, or he says things that we think are dumb, but Jared is a smart guy. He knows that they're rebuilding, but what is he doing? He's taking what Amy said and what they have projected, and he's using it against them. When Jared knows what the talent level was of the Titans going in, all the issues that he likes to sort of gloss over and say, but they told us that they were going to be good or more competitive. You see what I'm saying, though? That this is where you make the mistake when you are the owner and you say, oh, we have these promising players that we got last year. We have a promising young quarterback, and we're making progress, even though that was not realistic.
Okay, the flip side of that is this, because I'm always give you the counter to that. Yes, indeed, that was the case. But on the other side, it's what did they go out and do in free agency? Everything they did in free agency showed us. They didn't say it, but everything in free agency showed us it wasn't rebuilt. Everything in free agency told us we are plugging some holes and we are looking to win. This is not a rebuild.
But I'm just such a misconception.
Willie, I get it. I understand. But and I even said this. Based upon the guys that they added to this roster, if we just want to go 11 on 11, offense and defense, because I wasn't even going past that because I knew this roster, as far as the depth, they didn't have any. But if they can stay healthy relative, and I know that's a big if they can stay healthy and these guys come in here and they gel and they do the things they need to do, this is a team that can compete for a playoff spot based upon the guys that they brought in, but a lot of it hinged on the quarterback. So I guess that in a sense, they fooled me too, because if you tell me it's a rebuild, but then you go out there and trade for the number one corner, even though he hasn't played like that recently, you go out and get the number one corner. You go out and get the number one center or the number two center. You go out and get the number one wide receiver after, or the number two wide receiver. You go out and you get you a slot guy that has been one of the better slot guys in the National Football League. You go out and get you 1,000-yard rusher, 2-time 1,000-yard rusher in Pollard. That shows me, and then you go and get Diggs. That shows me that, and Awuzie, that shows me that this isn't a rebuild. As much as you're right, they should have said that. But when you go out and make moves like that, that doesn't show me that you wanted to rebuild. That's like saying, I'm getting ready to sell my house, but I'm about to do all this good stuff to it and everything. It's like, I thought your house looked fine. What are you doing? I thought you want to sell it.
Love it or list it.
Yeah, love it or list it.
Right?
So it's like you wanna tell us it's a rebuild, and many people looking at your roster are believing it's a rebuild, but then you go out and make moves that suggest to me that it's not a rebuild. So which one is it? Is it a rebuild, or are you trying to go for it? And when I mean go for it, is not trying to go for a Super Bowl. You're trying to go for it as far as getting into the playoffs, having a winning season, getting into the playoffs. It's sort of like you're talking out of both sides of your mouth in a sense. It's like you're saying it's a rebuild, but then you go out and you get all these free agents. That's not a rebuild to me. That means you want to win now, right or wrong.
But you have to understand NFL free agency. What
I'm saying is that when they do all of this,
false hope. You have to define the reason they had to spend all that money is because they had none of their own players that were worth keeping.
But they didn't have to
because they drafted so bad.
But they didn't have to go out and spend the money that they spent.
Free agents in the NFL are not great players. They are overpaid veterans who hopefully can plug holes. They are not going to lead you.
You wouldn't have needed Calvin Ridley if Traylon Burks would have been.
But they didn't have to go. But again, they didn't have to go out and spend the money to go get him. They didn't. But they did. Why? That shows me that you are trying to win now.
Again, you could have a more nuanced definition of why they were doing that.
Yeah.
We want to give our quarterback, who we think has a chance to be good, we want to give him a support system where he doesn't fall flat on his face and have to carry the entire team.
Yeah.
That would have been the message.
615
and not we can win. We can win. We spent all this money. We can win.
615-737-1025. It's time to take it to the bank, and we'll do that next. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Bingen, 1025, 1063, The Game.
Here comes the money.
And you can take that to the bank.
Here comes the money. Money, 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 money.
D-Mays, Vinkin and Donick, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. It is time to take it to the bank with F&M Bank. Their mission is to make lives better by making banking easier. David Janes, let's recap our selections from last week.
All right, boys. So, Adam, here was your picks. You had Mookie Betts home run. Unfortunately, that did not happen.
Not in game one, it did not.
In game one, it did not. And you said Vandy will cover against Texas, and they did.
They sure did.
You also said that Mason Rudolph would have a interception.
He sure did.
And he did. Just I need to make a rule about that now. Like,
no,
you can't.
You can't make a rule about it.
You
It's
know what?
fair game.
You know what? I'll think about it. All right. So 3 or 4 points for the
let's
for the
form a
Preds.
competition committee.
Yeah, that's
David,
what we'll
and see
do.
if we
We'll have a
can-
committee. We'll start a committee here soon.
Can you keep doing the same thing
Over
8
and over
weeks in a row?
Or should we just not allow?
I mean, it's working. I mean, there's no rule, so he's going to keep doing it until we.
This is
change
for
the
next
rule.
year. This is for
Yeah.
next year. This year we'll still allow it. But also, you said the Preds would get 3 or 4 points from last weekend. They did. They did do that. So you have a total of 9 points from the weekend.
Nice.
With
9
52
points.
total points.
All right.
Now, D-Mace.
This is painful.
D-Mace, you had an incredible week.
Boom!
You had Diego Pavia touchdown. That did happen.
No doubt.
Now, I didn't want to give you a point here, but you did say for Tommy Novak to have a goal or point.
Yes, I
He
did.
did get a point, so you got that. The Preds did beat the Blackhawks. You did get that. And Pollard did have at least 70 yards. He had 94 yards rushing last week.
Ching, ching, ching.
Sounds
Now-
like a perfect 10.
That's a
Is it?
tenner.
No, that's a 12er.
Oh, that's a
12er.
12er.
Oh,
You got a 12er, baby.
Yes, baby.
That is not the high degree
Yes,
of
it is.
difficulty.
That is
Get
a high
12?
degree of difficulty.
1 point in 2 games? for
No.
Tommy Novak?
No, hey man,
It happened. Hey,
One touchdown from Diego. The guy's been lighting it up.
hey man,
You
they
set
were,
the bar
they
low.
were playing the best team in the country, man.
See, the difference is Derek, he's just trying to hit for singles. I'm trying. I have a little bit of degree of difficulty in my
just,
picks.
just a
I
little.
think.
Just a little.
Oh, you picking a turnover? That ain't a degree of difficulty. It's gonna happen.
To be fair, the way that Mason Rudolph and Will Levis are trying to one up each other and
Exactly,
how
that's what
terrible
it
the interceptions can be.
That's a gimme.
Now,
When
Willie,
you said interception,
I before you give these terrible grades, David, I'm just going to make a revelation here. I
Okay.
need to change the way I think on this competition.
me and you both.
I'm
bud.
doing
Me
this
and
wrong.
you both.
I'm doing this wrong.
Now,
All
Willie,
right,
you
how did
had
Willie do?
Mizzou plus 17.
I did not.
Unfortunately,
Not even close.
unfortunately,
They didn't score.
yeah.
oh wow.
You know what happened? I didn't realize their running back was out,
Yes.
and then their quarterback got hurt right at the beginning of the game, so they
Mhm.
were toast.
Was
So
it 35-0? Was
No,
that the score?
34-0.
It was only 3-0 at the half, but they just couldn't ever score. I mean, Alabama's defense has not played well all year.
No.
In Missouri, I don't know. Forget it.
They must have heard what
This
you
is
said,
terrible.
Willie, and they're like, "All right, we're gonna do this." Now, you had Otani and Judge over 2.5 home runs
Oh,
in the
wow.
first 2 games.
Yeah, I thought they were going to be the
Unfortunately.
showcase.
Unfortunately, it didn't work that way.
But you did get the Patriots covering against the Jets. You did
I
get
did.
that
Yes.
with a total of 3 points. You have 30 points now, and I guess I'll skip. I should skip me because I swung for the fences here. I
Nope.
thought.
let's shame you for your bad picks.
Okay, Adam. All right. I thought
Drag
that-
him through the mud.
I thought I would get a lineman touchdown for the Lions. That unfortunately did not happen. I thought Diego Pavia would have 300 total yards. That unfortunately did not happen. And I said Mark Andrews would get 2 touchdowns. He got 1, but he didn't get 2. So that's a goose egg for me.
So what are the standings currently?
So, Adam, you're in the lead with 52 total points.
Okay.
D-Mace has 42
Okay.
total points. And me and Willie are tied.
With how many?
30.
Okay. I just want to
3-0.
Yes. I'm trying to make
Okay.
up for my disastrous rookie season in silly underdog picks by winning Take It to the Bank.
All
So here are my selections for this week. Calvin Ridley will score a touchdown against the Patriots, a touchdown of any kind. It could be a passing touchdown. It could be a reverse running in touchdown, whatever. Calvin Ridley will have a touchdown against the Patriots. Diego Pavia, who has haunted Hugh Freeze for years, will record at least 3 total touchdowns against Auburn, passing and or rushing. So 3 total touchdowns for Diego Pavia. I know the Lions whipped up on the Titans last week. I see an upset. I think the Packers will defeat the Lions, even though the game's at Lambeau Field. But I will take the Packers over the Lions. And the Titans starting quarterback will commit at least 1 turnover against the Patriots. I'm not going to put a name on it.
The starting quarterback.
The starting quarterback.
The starting quarterback.
The starting quarterback.
Easy money.
So if the starting quarterback comes out of the game after a quarter for some reason.
If Will Levis starts, comes out, Mason Rudolph comes in and throws an interception, that does not count.
Yeah,
okay.
The Titans starting quarterback will have commit at least 1 turnover
That's fair.
against the Patriots.
All right, I'm going this way. First, now that basketball season has officially started a week ago, I'm going basketball first. The Memphis Grizzlies and the Philadelphia 76ers. I got Ja Morant scoring at least 27 points in that game and Memphis winning. Okay? All right.
My man.
UK and UT. Tennessee will have they will get at least 2 turnovers in the game. So they will take the ball away from UK at least twice. All right, let's go to the NFL. And they need this desperately. Colt Anderson, you need this desperately. They will get a big return, either a touchdown or a long return, or either punt or kickoff return.
Okay, we
this
need a
game.
number on the long return.
Long return is anything over 20 yards.
Okay.
That's a long return.
What?
An explosive play.
20 yards?
Yes, that's an
for a
explosive
return?
play. That's an explosive play. Anything over 20 yards.
If I
Willie,
catch the ball on the goal line and I run it out to the 20, that's explosive?
Willie, they hadn't got 10 yards, man. They horrible.
You put the bar low again. That's your trick.
I'm not changing it. I'm not
This is
changing
your
it.
trick.
They're horrible,
You're
Willie.
trying to fool us.
As the commission, as the
You're trying
guy
to
who's
fool the
saying
commission.
points, I think it has to
Hold
be
on,
30. It
hold
has
on.
to be
You
30.
got to get out to the 30 at
Willie,
least.
they're horrible.
David is ruling
It has to be the 30. It has to be the 30.
All right, at least 30 yards.
least
There
There
you
you
go.
go.
At least
Or a
30 yards.
touchdown.
This is the guy that set the record.
Or a
It's a great
touchdown.
return. You wouldn't have been satisfied if you just got to the 20. You want the
It all-
real big
It all
return.
depends on how hard I got that 20. Yeah, okay. If I broke
If it's
a
a
couple of
touchdown, it's
tackles,
25.
There are different
So
kinds
it's
of
like-
20-yard
Exactly.
bucks. That's for sure.
Okay, so it has to be. It's either a return touchdown or a return of at least 30 yards.
Yes,
Okay.
there we go. There we go.
Willie?
We got it.
D-Mace he's got the formula. I've got to change my formula. It's too late now. I got to go. All right, I'm taking Arkansas and the points. What do we have officially right now in Arkansas? Is it still 7? It's been 7-ish.
I don't think it's
throughout the
changed.
week. They're an
hasn't been
underdog
enough.
against Ole
It's
Miss.
7.5.
7.5 now.
I'll take the 7.5 in the points as the home dog. I think Arkansas will be tough. I'm not saying they're going to win outright necessarily, but I like Arkansas to be right in there. I like what they're doing. I think I'm going to go Titans quarterbacks because we don't 100% know who's going to play.
Levis is questionable.
But they will combine. They will have multiple touchdown passes on Sunday. I think they're due to have a game where
Yeah.
they have some success here. Multiple touchdown passes for Titans quarterbacks. And I'm going to take the G-Men. My playoff pick, the New York Giants, 2-6 on the year.
Ooh.
They will cover as a 4-point dog at home in the Meadowlands against the Commanders.
To be fair, you did pick the Giants to make the playoffs.
I
I
did.
picked the Jets to win the AFC East.
Oh,
so
man.
Hey,
It's not
they're on a
looking
roll.
good.
They're on a roll. They won
they
last night.
did win last night. David?
All right, boys. So my first one is I think Oregon will have at least 25 points against Michigan this weekend.
All right.
Okay.
I think Lamar Jackson will throw for 2 touchdowns.
Who are the Ravens playing this weekend?
Let
The
me
Broncos.
see.
Okay.
I had to double check. And then one more, and this is for my Memphis Grizzlies. Thank you, D-Mace, for also
Yes.
being a part of it. I think John Morant will have, or no, not John Morant. I think Jaren Jackson Jr. will have 30 plus.
Oh.
In the same game?
In the same game. In the
game?
same
Okay.
game.
Okay. All right.
If they're
That's my
getting
picks.
30 plus from Jaron, who is a Michigan State product,
Exactly.
and they're getting 27 plus
Go
from
green.
John Morant, go white, they should win. And I picked them to win. So there you go.
We gotta talk about some of these picks here.
Hey, whoa.
Yeah, what's wrong with
What's wrong?
That's
with
a high degree of
30
difficulty.
plus?
Just 30 points.
I'm specifically talking about Derek. Oh, a 20-yard return.
That part, yeah. That's just
It's an explosive play.
One of the
20
most
yards.
outstanding punt return or
Hold on.
kickoff return guys in this city's history. The most
Hold
is
on.
saying that a 20-yard return.
You should
is
be
worth
ashamed
points.
of yourself.
Come on,
That's an
setting the
explosive
bar
play.
low.
That's
not.
Hold on.
Yeah, for
Hold
offense.
on. The bar is low already, okay?
The bar's on the floor.
Exactly.
That's fair. But
They're gonna trip over the bar.
we have some
For 10
integrity
yards.
here in this competition. It has to be 30 plus.
Okay, so 30-yard return at
Oh
least.
man.
Okay,
Or
we're-
touchdown.
we agree on this. We're okay on this.
All right. We have set the parameters. A punt return or kickoff return for a touchdown, or a punt return or kickoff return of at least 30 yards against the Patriots. Any quick final thoughts on Titans Patriots this weekend?
Well, for me, if Will Levis does start with it, which it looks like he will be starting, and is trending toward that way, he needs this victory more than anybody. He does. One, this is a beatable team. And then two, he needs to start building back up his confidence if he's lost it or whatnot. So he needs this game more than anybody.
I think Brian Callahan needs this game too.
Yeah.
I think if you want to show some promise, you need to beat teams that are just as bad as you are, and there aren't that many of them, especially on your schedule. So I think this is a big game for Brian Callahan too, to show Titans fans that he can put together a winning game plan. But that will do it for us this week. We had a wonderful time with all of you. We hope that you have a wonderful weekend. Stillman and Company coming up next. We will be back at 11 a.m. on Monday live from Bridgestone Arena, where the Predators host the LA Kings, and we'll react to Titans and Patriots. But until then, have a wonderful weekend.
Be love on your people. Have a wonderful